All right, well, thank you. I will call this, I love the title retreat. And you know, Chick-fil-A makes it like a retreat, so thank you for that,
Absolutely.
But welcome everybody to our retreat. It is also open to the public. As you know, public people here attending this morning. But I think, and I would like to thank our special guests for coming this morning. Just met Tracy Jackson and Merril, so we're glad to have you with us this morning. Seth, can you give us a roll call?
I certainly can. Sharon Bryant.
Here.
Kit Fairclough. Here. Steve Strickland. Here. Sarah Proctor.
Here.
Beth Walker.
I'm here.
Julius Parker.
I'm here.
Leander Morgan. Tabari Wallace. Hazel Royal. I'm good there. Rick Brill. Barbara Best. Jimmy Dillahunt. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Well, we are going to get started with our very favorite attorney. Hey, I take offense to that. And I believe you have a presentation for us about the general statute and powers review, which is a great way to start the year because you are always referencing this throughout the year, and we look to you at every meeting.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair.
Hey girl, I did not see the pink and green
Yes.
until I saw your shoes. Okay, now you got your colors on.
You got my colors on today. So, members of the commission, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to those of you who have not had an opportunity to greet so far this year. It is my esteemed privilege to accept Mr. Executive Director's invitation to join you this morning, as become our custom, to give you just a refresher of some information that we talk about kind of during the course of the year, but it's always a good opportunity at the beginning of the year just to reset, make sure that we all are working with the same information and the same knowledge as we chart our course for the next 12 months. So you're not going to hear anything new today, but we're going to revisit some old things and maybe unpack them in a way that we haven't unpacked them before, and connecting our charge with our tools in a way that perhaps we haven't understood them in the past. So the first thing that I've given out to you, is actually the only thing I'm going to give out to you today, is your powers chart. That's something that you've seen before. You should have it in your notebook for Redevelopment Commission. It has not changed. We haven't made any amendments, but it's always good when we're thinking about what do we want to do, what's our vision, to connect it to how we can accomplish the vision. And we use the tools in our powers chart to be able to accomplish the vision that we have. So we're going to visit that in just a second. But before we get there, we all know that redevelopment commissions are creatures of statute. So in North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 160A, Article 22, legal mumbo jumbo, that's where we find all the rules related to redevelopment commissions. And very often when we read statutes, they got this kind of introductory stuff at the top that says, okay, this is why the General Assembly is creating the law. And we kind of glaze past that and get down to the nitty gritty. Okay, what can we do? What can we not do? How do we do it? But I want to go back to the top to say, when the General Assembly of this state was thinking about whether to create redevelopment commissions, what was on their mind? And I think understanding the public policy behind why redevelopment commissions exist will help us understand what it is that we are to do. So, in the statute 168-501, we have certain findings by the General Assembly. And here's what the General Assembly said. They said that they hereby find that there exist in urban communities blighted areas. It's the first thing they say. They talk about this concept of having a blighted area. And they go on to say that blighted areas are areas where economic and social liabilities exist. Circumstances that are injurious to public health, harmful to social and economic well-being, situations where we have depreciating values, declining tax revenues, overall just a set of circumstances that have really negative impacts in our community. And in recognizing that those conditions exist in some of our communities, the legislature says that the acquisition, preparation, sale, and sound replanning of these areas will promote public health, safety, convenience, and welfare. So when we think about why we exist and what it is that we're to do, we have to think about the fact that we have blighted areas in our community. And the legislature thinks that acquisition, preparation, sale, and replanning will help to improve conditions in these areas such that we reduce blight. So when we think about what it is, how we are to prioritize the things that we do, at least in the short term, you might consider bearing in mind that blight exists, and we can eliminate or reduce blight by acquiring properties, by preparing properties, selling properties, and replanting properties. And we'll unpack what those concepts mean. The statute goes on to say, therefore, it will be the policy of the state of North Carolina to promote health, safety, and welfare in its inhabitants by creating redevelopment commissions, which shall exist and operate for public purposes for acquiring, replanning, holding, and disposing of areas such that they become available for economically and socially sound redevelopment. So if we look at all of those things together, redevelopment commissions are directly connected with the state's goal to reduce and eliminate blight. What does blight mean? I'm glad you asked. General Assembly tells us what that means. Because very often when we think about pop culture and movies and other things, we have an image in our mind that may not necessarily connect with what the statutory definition of blight is. And it's fairly straightforward. The statute says that a blighted area is an area where there's a predominance of buildings that are dilapidated, deteriorated, old, obsolete, or areas where there are open spaces, high-density populations, overcrowding, unsafe property conditions, or any combination of these factors that also are connected with ill health, transmission of disease, infant mortality, juvenile delinquency, crime, and other conditions that are detrimental to public health. So when we think about the areas where you all are tasked with redeveloping, we want to think about each of those components and how they contribute to the overall blight. Now, I'm thinking about some of these social conditions. Obviously, our county has a Department of Social Services, and there are lots of nonprofit organizations that are tasked with doing very specific social type work. In our powers, we don't have the capability to do a lot of those things. However, if we go back to our mission, according to the legislature, some of the tools that we have in our development to change the physical landscape can also change some of those societal issues as well. So as you go forward today, I want you to bear in mind is what we're talking about doing, addressing blight, is a property that we're considering. If we replan that property, we sell that property, we acquire that property, what impact does that have to the overall blight? In your packet of information that Mr. Huff has distributed to you, on page 13 or 43, depending on how you look at it, there is a map from the Choice Neighborhoods plan that looks at crime and code enforcement. And it blocks crime rates and minimum housing code enforcement from 2018 to 2019. Now granted, the statistic is a bit dated, but this is the map I'm talking about. Anyway.
This is what we started with.
This is what we started with. So this is in your adopted redevelopment plan from yesteryear. And if you look at these various different symbols on this map, you see some of the areas, you have a visual representation of some of the areas that have been identified with either dilapidated or deteriorated structures, incidences of various different crimes, expired building permits, and etc. So as we're thinking about the physical landscape and thinking about this concept of blight, thinking about blight and connecting it to this map may give you some information to consider as you prioritize where to concentrate your efforts. Now, certainly, you all have had many successes in the last 6 months to a year in taking vacant properties and connecting them with sound redevelopment, and we're looking forward to seeing those redevelopment efforts come to fruition. But as you think about other properties and parcels, think about the number of vacant lots that are identified in your plan. Think about incidences where we may have deteriorated or dilapidated structures. As you ride by, very often we can see them. We have a department here in the city of New Bern that tracks deteriorated and dilapidated residential as well as commercial structures. So that may be information that you want to seek going forward to make sure that the statistics that were blotted in 2018 and 19, maybe those statistics have changed. Maybe there are more properties that need to be on this map. Maybe there are properties that need to be eliminated from this map. But those are pieces of information that you might seek going forward to make sure that you have an adequate understanding of the current condition of blight in the redevelopment area.
I won't cut y'all, but when you said you have a department here, I've been dealing with the departments here, but it seems that it's a long process to get something removed or torn down. It's just a long process. And if you've seen a house with a hole in the roof for the last 6 months and we haven't done anything about it, it's like,
I'm glad you bring that up.
it's you know, you try to do some redevelopment, but you don't have a department that, I don't know, maybe they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
We just think the process is too long.
The
The process is too long.
And for those of you all who may not be familiar with this department, what this department is discussing, in the city's code of ordinances, there's a process, and in the statute as well, there's a process wherein a local government can come in and say, hey, your property, we've investigated it, it fails to meet the minimum safety standards of our local government, it is either dilapidated or deteriorated depending on the level of deterioration in the building, to repeat the phrase. And if that determination is made, the chief building inspector of the city files a complaint and issues an order saying, thou shalt improve your property within this particular window of time. And that can be a short time or it can be a long time depending on the nature of the circumstances. If a property owner fails to remedy the issue such that it's in compliance with our minimum standards, then there are certain actions that are available to the local government. One of them can be demolition, depending on the level of severity. One of the issues that the department often faces in the community that we're discussing is quite often these properties are air properties. And we have to remember that property owners have constitutional rights that protect them from having their property taken from them without due process of law or just compensation. So we have to balance those interests. If we can't notify the owners because we can't identify them that these issues exist, how can we then give them an opportunity to come and be heard before we think about depriving them of the structure that has some value, no matter how de minimis given the level of deterioration. So I hear that the process takes a long time, especially in the redevelopment area because of that unique issue. And I will tell you that my advice to the inspections department is try to find a living, breathing human being to talk to try to remedy these conditions before we input state action.
The two cases we're dealing with now is they send letters, but they never get a response from the lady that owns the property.
And I will tell you that there's a provision in our code that says if we get good service on a person who has an interest in the property, that checks a box. So one of the things that you may do, leading me to our powers analysis, is you have the power to make recommendations to the Board of Aldermen. If you identify issues in the redevelopment area or issues in the local government that could be remedied to help be more effective in addressing issues of blight, you can bring that information to the Board of Aldermen and ask them to change policies or consider making amendments to our local ordinances. So let's transition now to the powers chart. Thank you, sir. So you've seen this before. The power that you all use quite often and regularly is the power to purchase property in the redevelopment area. Anybody have one? No? Okay, we're going to share.
There's some over here.
Okay, that's yours. You have the power to purchase property. You can go into closed session. You can instruct the executive director or one of your members about what price you're willing to pay or a range that you're willing to pay for a particular property, so long as the acquisition of that property is going to help reduce blight. Okay? That's not to say you can only buy blighted parcels, that's not what I'm saying. But you can buy parcels so that you can aggregate parcels so that you can have a net impact of reducing blight in the community. You have the power to do that. Otherwise acquired property in the Redevelopment Commission or the redevelopment area. Well, what does that mean, otherwise acquired? You can accept gifts. The lion's share of your properties that you've gotten, you have received at no cost from the local government, be that county or the city of New Bern. So you can acquire property that way. Entities or individuals can gift you property. Hey, I know that the house on my property is getting ready to fall down. I can't bring it into compliance. I can't pay fees. I don't have money to demolish it. I will give it to the Redevelopment Commission so long as you all will do something productive with the lot. That is an option that you have at your disposal. Hold, improve, clear, or prepare land for development. You all have done that. You have gone on Bloomfield Street. You have held some lots. Some of them you bought. Some of them you acquired from the local government. You've cleared them. There was lots of debris and other things. You had them surveyed. You put them on the market. You advertised for bids, and you were able to sell those lots. So you've exercised that power. Obtain surveys, appraisals, preliminary studies. You've done that. You're in the process of getting some survey work done on West A Street, which I know Mr. Kipper's going to talk about later today. I just feel it. Maybe not. So you've exercised that power. So you're good on that one. Make plans for a program for voluntary repair and rehabilitation of buildings. That's a power that you have that perhaps you consider utilizing. You have the power to work with city staff and others to create a program by which, instead of the government taking people's property because they can't fix it, helping people utilize resources to improve and invest in themselves and improve their own neighborhoods and their own parcels. So you have that capability. Now, what that looks like in practice, we can unpack a bit because we have a community development person here in the Development Services Department that might be able to help us with grants and other federal funds, state funds that you might be a conduit for to institute such a program if you have an appetite to do so. Make plans for code enforcement related to land use and the use and occupancy of buildings, something that Mr. Parham just touched on. You have the power to say, hey, right now, the city of New Bern is a complaint-based system where if I'm driving by on a particular street and I see a building that's in a state of decay or disrepair, I've got to call and tell somebody about this building before something has an opportunity to happen. Why don't we change that policy so that maybe it functions a different way, perhaps to be more proactive? I think that's something that I've heard conversation about in the past. You absolutely have statutory authority to make such a recommendation or make a plan yourselves and present that to the local government for its consideration and adoption. Execute contracts for construction, demolition, etc. You've done that. You've moved structures, you've demolished structures, you've built structures. You've done all of those things. So, I'm sorry?
We drug too.
We did. We did. Make resolutions. Y'all do that all the time. Making resolutions is a good way to be transparent and document your actions. You all are a public body, you know that. And the members of the public have an opportunity to come in and inspect your work if they want to. So if anyone ever has a question about the action that you took, having a resolution that documents it, there's a piece of paper that exists that articulates your position and why you did something, is always a good practice. And that's something that you all do. So congratulations on that. Make expenditures. Y'all do that. Y'all do that. Make recommendations to the Board of Aldermen. You do that when you get ready to sell property. You have to ask for the approval from the governing board and you recommend to them that they approve a sale. There are other things that you can recommend that the board do. Connecting that to some things that we've discussed higher up on the list. Sell property with or without consideration. We've talked about this kind of at length, ad nauseum. I'm just going to run through it real quickly. Obviously, we got to get approval from the governing board. Advertisement for sealed bid, you've done that. In that process, we publish a notice in the newspaper for 30 days saying, hey, we're selling this property at this price, or you don't have to set a minimum price. Here are the criteria that you have to satisfy. File a bid with the city clerk within this period. Once the bids are open, whoever bids the highest, meeting the criteria, wins. That's that process. Conversely, the upset bid process is a little bit different. We publish a notice in the newspaper saying, hey, we have received an offer to purchase. This is the minimum amount that has been bid. You've got 10 days to upset that bid. And somebody may or may not. If someone does, okay, they've raised that bid by a certain amount. You got 10 more days to upset that bid. And that process can go on and on and on and on until finally there are no upset bids received. Once that final bid is received and there's no upset, we have an opportunity to accept or reject all bids. Public auction, you see that on TV very often. The county does it all the time with tax foreclosure properties. Literally stand on the courthouse steps, hear ye, we're gonna sell this property, and you see, the bid war. Exchange, y'all have done this. When there is a blighted parcel or a parcel in your redevelopment area boundary that has value to you and you have property that might be valuable to a seller, you can swap them, so long as there is adequate consideration. Not meaning they have to be valued the same monetarily, but in valuing the properties, if it's going to be an even exchange, you can swap properties in your boundary. And I say in your boundary because all of your jurisdiction begins and ends in your redevelopment area boundary. And then lastly, private sale to an entity carrying out a public purpose. We've done that too. You can sell property to entities carrying out a public purpose, such as nonprofit organizations that are carrying out a public purpose. Being a nonprofit organization in and of itself does not check the box. You look specifically at the purpose that is being carried out. Okay? And I see our friend from ECU shaking his head because very often people get tripped up there. Well, they're a 501c3. Why can't I just give them $1 million? Well, there's more to that analysis. But in your case, you've exercised this power when you conveyed property to the housing authority, the units that you constructed on Wild Bellamy. Temporarily lease or rent property in connection with an ongoing redevelopment project. What does temporary mean? I don't know. I don't have a good answer. There has not been any case law interpreting what that means. The School of Government doesn't have any insight. Not too long. That's all I have for you. So that's what we got. Fortunately, in North Carolina, there has not been a great amount of litigation concerning redevelopment commissions, but that cuts two ways. We don't have a lot of guidance for what the parameters are. We just have to compare it to other local governments. Use of the right, exercise of the right of eminent domain. In your redevelopment plan that you adopted years ago, you set out to the public, we have this right. And we know we have this right, but it is our intention to only use it as a tool of last resort. I bring this to your attention because there may be circumstances where it may be necessary or prudent to acquire blighted parcels for redevelopment purposes, which are public purposes. You have the tool. If you want to use it, there's a process by which we have to go through. We can talk about that, but that's something that is in your tool belt.
Can I use that for the house I'm talking about?
Perhaps it would be helpful for you to
I hear what he's saying.
yes, discuss what eminent domain is not.
So eminent domain is a condemnation power. And very often, in just common conversation, people say, they ought to condemn that house. It's getting ready to fall down on itself. They just need to condemn that house. And what they're saying is that house is unfit for human habitation, and people shouldn't be allowed to live there, and the government should take some action to either force the property owner to remedy the issues or tear it down. That is not a condemnation in the terms that we're saying connected with eminent domain. That's a different analysis. Condemnation in the eminent domain context is a taking of private property, but you pay just compensation for it. So, hey, Miss Susie, we're getting ready to build a wetlands feature to help the drainage of the larger community, your property's in the way. So we are going to file a lawsuit naming you as a defendant, and we are going to take title of your property. We're going to have it appraised, and we're going to give you the appraised value for that property. I will tell you that sometimes people say, no thanks, or they disagree with the value that the local government or government entity proposes. And then we find ourselves in a circumstance where we're having a trial on the issue of value.
It becomes a long process.
It can become a long, expensive process. Not to discourage you at all, but just so that you know the breadth of the possibilities that could ensue once you chart down that course, so that you can have an informed decision about whether that's an adequate use of your resources. But in the context of a house or a structure or a building is unfit for human habitation, there is a process that exists currently that you may want to consider reviewing and making recommendations to the city about how to better either change the rules consistent with the statute, or better implement it so that it's more effective and gives better outcomes in decreasing or eliminating blight. So the last thing on your chart is you have the power to change the redevelopment plan with an asterisk that would take it approval by the governing board. Your redevelopment plan covers a lot of ground. There are a lot of components. Your area is vast. In my survey of redevelopment commissions across the state, I've not seen a redevelopment area as large as this one, with both commercial and residential components, historic areas. There's a lot of diversity there. And if it ever comes to you that, you know what we were thinking in 2017 or 18 may not be germane now, you have the opportunity to go back and make revisions to the extent that it's necessary. So that's my spiel for the morning. If you have any specific questions about anything that I discussed, I'm happy to take those questions at this time. If there's something that wasn't contained in this presentation that you would like to ask questions about in the future, we certainly can put that on the agenda and we can entertain those topics at that time. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Rights versus responsibility in regards to the homeowners of said blighted structures. You know, we can't go in because they have rights, but when do what's the trade-off with the rights and responsibilities?
So you mentioned we can't go into the structures. There is a legal mechanism wherein local governments can get administrative search warrants that are issued by either the clerk of court or a magistrate that allow city inspectors to go onto the property without the consent of the property owner. I will tell you that happens, I'm not going to say regularly, but it's not unusual to obtain a search warrant in the circumstance where we're unable to make contact with the property owner or the property owners are not easily identified. But I will tell you in circumstances where we have local knowledge, where, you know, people who grow up and have connections with that community may be able to help identify someone who has a connection to the property, who may live in the property, who may have owned the property, and sharing that kind of local knowledge can be helpful in trying to remedy situations as opposed to inspectors just using public resources to try to identify folks. So the responsibility to improve the property is always on the property owner. Okay? The roles in trying to accomplish that can be shared. They can be shared by the property owner or the lessee or someone who has an option to buy. It can be shared with you all if there's a voluntary rehabilitation program. The roles can be spread out, but the responsibility, often the legal responsibility, rests with the property owner or owners. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of the issues that we've run into multiple times is title to property in the redevelopment area. I mean, they're horrible, as we know. How can we continue trying to do the things that we're set to do or desire to do when we run into these title problems all the time? Because it seems like every time we have them often, let's put it that way.
We do, and I'm going to unpack a little bit what you mean by title is awful. So sometimes in communities, especially, I'm not going to say that, sometimes in communities, Big Mama will have a house, and Big Mama will have 4 children. And Big Mama will say, you know what, when I die, y'all know what to do, y'all know what my wishes are, and I want everybody to share and share alike. And then Big Mama dies. And then you have, I don't know how many children Big Mama has, but we'll call them 5, these 5 children, and everybody moves away. And one person stays in the house. And that one person thinks it's their house. But because Big Mama died and didn't have a will, and didn't otherwise convey the property during her life, all 5 of those children share a 1/5 interest in the property, such that no one person can sell or convey the property without the consent of the other 4. In practical life, here's the problem. All 5 of them have the responsibility, the legal responsibility. So when the house starts to fall into a state of disrepair, the one who's living there says, hey, y'all need to help me repair this structure. And they're like, I don't live there, it's your house. So the person who's in the house or the person who's local bears that brunt, but they may not be able, they may not have the resources to do everything that's necessary. So the person who lives there says, you know what, it's getting to be too much for me, I want to sell it. Well, then the other 4 show up again and say, well, if you're going to sell it, I need my cut, because Mama left that house to be 2. So very often, no one wants to invest, no one owner wants to invest their resources to have to share the return with 5 other people or 4 other people. So that's what Mr. Perigoy is referencing when we have these title issues, where multiply that hypothetical by 4, 5, 6 generations. So you get to a circumstance where you might have 50, 60, 1,100 owners of a property that nobody has looked at in the last 50 years and has fallen down on itself. Compound that with, you know what, my neighbor over there wants another 10 feet on their yard, so that's fine, you put your fence over here. So then the lot lines get all murked up. And then we just twirl in the wind. So how do we fix it? Mr. Perigoy, that was a long way to say, I don't know. But one thing that might be helpful as you think about how to connect with other resources and entities, there are legal organizations that exist out there that can help people with such issues going forward. So it may not unpack what has happened in the past, but for property owners, owner-occupied structures that exist this day, maybe you connect those folks with folks like Legal Aid. Maybe you reach out to them and say, hey, will you come to a clinic in the redevelopment area boundary, because we have an aging population that needs to get these issues, handled in a way that we don't continue to experience this legal issue that ultimately creates an increased blight. So I hope that's helpful. Any other questions? Ms. Parker, I see you. I don't know if that's a question. Okay.
Just for my information.
Yes, sir.
Who do we call, there's a potential sale, you, right, that's what we always do. But like you said, the fence line, property line gets skewed. The current situation where we're about to hopefully finish a sale, and the neighbor on the right-hand side got their fence on over the property line. Well, who remedies that? Is that the city's job, or is it going to be a fight between the new person?
Is y'all's property?
Well, Bern people no, it's our property. Yes.
It's y'all's property. Okay. Report
Survey.
it.
Huh?
Survey.
Somebody said survey.
Oh, survey.
Survey.
But I'm saying, but the fence is already, somebody's gonna have to pay to take that fence down and get it across the property line, and I don't want it to be the new people going into the, you see what I'm saying?
You reported to Zeb.
Okay.
And Zeb will connect with the appropriate entities or people in the city or at the city's disposal that will remedy such things.
Great, because I know both owners. I don't want to be in it. Got out of that one.
I
Okay.
appreciate your presentation. I don't want to cut off everybody's questions, but I know you always make yourself available to us, and I know we need to get on with our speakers. And it's probably serious that I'm the one that was like totally tracking with you, but.
And that's fine. Y'all know how to get up with me. If you get your pen, I'll give you my email address. Unless you don't already have it. Everybody have it?
Yeah.
Everybody's got it?
Not only do they have your email address, they have you on speed dial.
I don't want to say my telephone number on the recording, but if you have questions, if you have concerns, if something I said today sparks a thought that you need to unpack further, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'm a resource that is always at your disposal. So please avail yourself. If I don't know, I will tell you. Mr. Davis and I work in tandem. Mr. Davis has been representing the city of New Bern in some capacity for the last 30 years. So between he and I, we are certainly going to be in a position to be able to support you as you accomplish your goals and track towards that course of improving our local community. And thank you from someone who is a child of that community for the work that you do. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you all know, as part of my job, I get to float around to different places and figure out what our neighbors are up to. And one of the people that I've gotten a chance to meet and connect with is Mr. Merril Flood. I'm not gonna take the time to give you his whole resume. He can do that because I know he has a presentation for us this morning, and I'm excited for what he has to share. So with that, I will say take it away.
All right, let's see if we can get, all right, let's see this one. All right.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you. I appreciate Zed's invitation and getting a chance to meet and talk with you all. I was a little bit intimidated talking with New Bern about revitalization and redevelopment because I spent 30 years in local government, 29 of them in Greenville as a planning director, doing redevelopment, and then assistant city manager. And when we got started, some of what you all do here in New Bern, we said, well, let's take a look at it, particularly with the downtown efforts, because you all have had a history. And that history has been extremely well thought, well executed, and we thought, well, that would be good. We really had two real, and it's not advancing, so yeah. So that's just a little bit about me. As I mentioned, 30 years in local government. It's less about me, more about the people I had a chance to surround myself with. I had a really great staff, and we did a lot of good things. My forte, I came into planning as a land use planner and then went into affordable housing, and then worked to develop and create the programs, the whole approach to affordable housing in Greenville, and then moved into public-private partnerships along with redevelopment. We had really two efforts of redevelopment in Greenville. First, the 1960s model that everybody had, 1962, with our short drive effort, and then 1994. And so I'll talk a little bit about our redevelopment efforts. I'll focus a little bit on our affordable housing program, and I'll show a number of projects because your redevelopment area, as your attorney mentioned, is vast. You do have a large area, you have a lot of moving pieces, and so some of the things we did may be informative in sort of your approach. Some of them you may have already covered, but we'll talk a little bit about that. And so this is Greenville, as it started out in 1930s, and certainly older than that, but this was when the city had a population of 10,168. We're a little bit over 95,000 now, and there's been a steady trajectory of growth. As I mentioned, our revitalization and redevelopment history came in two real tranches. 1960s, we had the model that everybody had, where you had a redevelopment commission that was kind of almost autonomous like housing authorities. And they had a lot of the same authorities that your attorney advised you on, but they really functioned more independently than the new versions of redevelopment commissions do. We went through a period of a number of things. It was finally dissolved in the late 1970s. We had a number of projects at Shore Drive, Central Business District, the Meadowbrook project. We did a number of things, and then we shifted everything to a nonprofit organization called Evergreen, and that was our focus for our downtown. Fast forward, we were still doing some work because our downtown, we lost a lot of great building stock with that 1960 effort, and so we felt we had to move forward at the end of the 90s into re-establishing our downtown and looking at the neighborhoods that surrounded it. And I'll show you a little bit about that. So in 2001, we had a new council that came in, and we had a couple of projects that were on the forefront, which we'll talk about. This is our Shore Drive redevelopment area. It is the area, if you're familiar with Greenville, where our town common is. It was a neighborhood, it was a community, and much of the efforts in the 60s at that time were slash. We're going to buy everything up. and hope to reseed it with something, but we're really not giving a lot of thought. We'll give a plan, but not a whole lot happening. Our central business district touched it. Shore Drive was here. This was the area of downtown. I call it the horseshoe. And so that was our downtown area. This was the last report of the Redevelopment Commission in 1980, and they summarized what happened in the Shore Drive area, central business district. They had close to $9 million to work with. Not a lot of money, but then it went a long ways. But that was a little bit about what they did. And so our area of what was the town common was the Shore Drive area. We had a number of catalytic landmarks. We had this neighborhood, we had Sycamore Hill Church, and we had this bridge, all of which we've tried to kind of deal with what happened with that today. We moved the bridge over the Town Creek Common. This is the Shore Drive area as it exists today, and it's a park. And so to a lot of community neighborhood members that experienced that redevelopment, they really felt disheartened by their land, their property being bought, and now it became a park. And so we had to really kind of think about that as we re-entered a new phase of redevelopment, because a lot of folks, whenever I would talk to folks about redevelopment, it really depends on the side of the street you were on. Some people had, expectations and thought it was good. Others felt, no, I had a piece of property and I lost it during that transition. So we were in 2001 through 2017 really facing that head on. Greenville as it existed back in the 50s and 60s was a typical grid street neighborhood or community and city. Evans Street was kind of the impetus of where everything happened. Dickinson Avenue came in. We had a 5 Points Plaza that was made, which we'll see a little bit later on. We put in this mall in our downtown area, closed off Evans Street between 5th and 3rd, and it became a pedestrian mall. And that was what everybody was doing at that point in time. And we came fast forward after Hurricane Floyd, and we said we've killed that street. And so we're going to put traffic back on that street. And by doing so, we started to see some things happening in that area. We instituted a facade improvement grant program, and that street became eligible for historic preservation consideration and on the National Register, meaning it got historic tax credit eligibility. And property owners started using those tax credits to take some of these larger buildings and renovate them and put life back into them because they were vacant. We went into this one, I remember, and kids were getting in, lighting candles. We just knew it was fire waiting to happen. Something had to happen on that street. So we had a number of those buildings that happened. So beginning in 2004, we had a couple things that were colliding with us. We had a new council that came in. We had a 10th Street connector, which was an NCDOT roadway project that had spent 25 years on the transportation improvement list, and it was coming due. The mayor and several community leaders went to NCDOT and said, we'd like to speed this up. If we would do the pre-planning on that roadway, would you allow us to help move it up and not cause us to lose the transportation dollars? Because obviously with NCDOT, if you put local money into a project, they withdraw their money. And that was key. We didn't want to lose the money to build the road. We wanted to just do the pre-planning because we knew our community better than NCDOT, and we were going to be going through areas where people had been touched with redevelopment. And so we needed to have that conversation. And so that began our second redevelopment process. The council appointed a redevelopment commission, much like you. However, it didn't have the same autonomy that the 1960s redevelopment commission. Their budget, property purchases, activities had to be reviewed by the council before they would be authorized. At the same time, the council said, we're considering a bond referendum. And that bond referendum will be used to help fund the planning on that 10th Street connector. We want $5 million for West Greenville, which is the area, the neighborhood immediately to the west of downtown, and then $5 million for downtown to facilitate projects. It was our second bond referendum. And so we asked this question, can we do this bond referendum? Ask the voters, would you agree for us going out and incurring debt to do projects in these areas? And overwhelmingly it passed. So we started doing some plans. We did our redevelopment plan, which I bought here. the streetscape plan I bought. We had a 45 block redevelopment plan already in process because we are an entitlement community. And did a streetscape plan, then Dickinson Avenue plan. So we did a lot of planning, but we knew we couldn't just do plans. We had to do some work at the same time. So we began to get started in earnest with what I call a 2.5-year odyssey, because a lot of folks still had that bad taste of redevelopment in their mouth. And so it took us 2.5 years to get this plan considered and adopted by the council, because we appointed a redevelopment commission, we hired a consultant, but everybody was suspicious. What are you going to do? What are you going to do to us? And so we had to really kind of jump that hurdle and reimagine redevelopment beyond just that splash and burn. How do we build communities? How do we take the people that are in the community and better their lives? And so that was the whole thing.
That's a quick question. In this process that you were doing and getting started, how was the commission's relationship with the public? I mean, we you know how that goes.
Yeah. And you probably were around Greenville much around that time.
Yeah.
They were suspicious. And the folks that were appointed were well-meaning. Many of them had nothing to do per se with the last redevelopment effort, but because they had the title, the community looked at them with a big air of suspicion.
Right.
So it was tough. And so they had public engagement. We would openly ask the public, give us your views, but we can't leave it in its current state. And that was particularly for the West Greenville area, because many of the residents there had been moved from Shore Drive. West Greenville became their home. Mm-hmm. And I heard more than a few folks say, it's happening to me again.
Okay.
And so the Redevelopment Commission actively sought input. For the area in the downtown, it was, you're getting ready to drive up rents, and it's going to be not affordable for me to run a business because rents are getting ready to go up because of the work you're getting ready to do. So it was a tenuous period. Your attorney advised you on the Redevelopment Commission's authorities. I won't go too much into that. She spelled it out for you. We adopted an area that was in compliance with that section for the West Greenville area. We couldn't meet the blighted criteria for the downtown area. So we ended up with a revitalization plan and a redevelopment plan for the West Greenville area, because we had, and we'll see some figures that showed what we had. But
So the two different words allowed you to.
yeah.
Okay.
So we had a revitalization area for this horseshoe area down to here, and this is the West Greenville community. That was our certified redevelopment.
Okay.
Yeah, and that probably took the longest part of the planning process because of that history. So all total was about 400 acres. We'll see a little bit of that, but that was our work area.
But the commission did both. The commission was stewards of both plans.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So the downtown area, 212 acres. We had a median income of $17,700 because of students. That's primarily an area where the students bleed over. And then, the primary land use was office. Median property value was around $77,700. That's because of the commercial buildings that were in that area. Land was selling for about $40,000. That was the median land sale. Today, it's $500,000. Because we were affecting the comps by our activities. Okay. We had a mission statement, and it sounds sort of corny, but my staff and I, every time we got started with a project, we try to balance it against that mission statement. Are we trying to make it a better place? And what we found is the concepts for the downtown and the certified redevelopment area, they were not that different. Make it a better place. Make it feel better to the folks that are there. We had some emphasis on mixed-use development concepts, et cetera, et cetera. And in West Greenville, it was primarily 75% renter. So we wanted to get back to home ownership in that neighborhood and try and find a way for the folks that lived in the neighborhood to buy and not make it a slash and burn sort of development.
And that's kind of the example we got. A lot of rental in there we got. Yeah.
So we got started with the streetscape plan, and we said, well, why is that important? Well, if the public infrastructure looks crappy. How can you bring private investment in? So we started with the streetscape plan, which became really a kit of parts, and we said we're going to do everything from West Fifth Street over to the Horseshoe, down Evans and down Dickinson. And we had a plan for how we would get that done, but we would do some introductory projects with the idea the council would come back and give us the authority to do some more. That's taken a while. We're just now getting from this section to here done and this done because of a build grant that the city's received money for, as well as some improvements by NCDOT. But by having this plan, we were able to say to NCDOT, when you treat streets in our jurisdiction, you will use the treatments outlined in our streetscape master plan and not just do the bare minimum. So we were able to do that, how the street interacts with the public, the kit of parts. What are we going to do with tree grates? What are we going to do along the way? What are we going to do at intersections, et cetera? And so we did some development projects, and we did two, one in West Greenville, which was became a real kind of homecoming type project, and then went around Charles and Cotan Street. And that was sort of the area that we did downtown. This was the entrance, the gateway into West Fifth Street. It was at what was sacred ground, and that was the former Epps High School, which was the last segregated high school, and many of the folks have gone throughout the world to do amazing things. And they said, we've got to do more with that site because it was acquired by the city and then it burned. And so we said, yeah, we do. So we're going to treat that special. We're going to make this actually a gateway entrance. And that gateway entrance into the neighborhood, we're going to have, you know, an archway where the front doors of the schools were. And then we had an artist. We commissioned an artist. We did a call for artists. They took photographs of from the Epps alumni, and they etched that into the wall. So it was an award winner, and the neighborhood bought into the project. They said, yes, this is what we want. And we've since done some more to solidify the Epps High School with the museum in the back of the structure there. But it was a way for the community to see we are trying to do something a little different than what was done before. Downtown, we had this, I talked about Dickinson, 5th Street, where they came together, and we had this open air park where it was a parking lot, but it didn't feel good during events. And we said, how can we do something with that? We need to commemorate where this old iron building used to be, the old First National Bank building. And so we did a streetscape project that ended up taking out some of the rows and really creating a downtown space so we get that dual function. We function as a parking lot during the day, close it off for our events, and the community in the downtown area started going to it. But then what started happening, people from all parts of the community started saying, hey, that's the spot we can go. Or we can go to the West Fifth Street location and we can have an event. So we were beginning to get some things going, and then we said, all right, now we've got to really do some of the hard stuff. And so we started getting a lot of development interest. Developer out of Atlanta said, you all got some land, and I really promote putting public land into play. We're going to develop this complex, but we need a place to park these individuals. We didn't have a lot of housing in the downtown. And so this was at the corner of First and Green. They came in with them what was about a $20 million project. This land that's down here was part of the old laydown area for the electric substation, so it had creosote problems. If you ever get into a phase one, it's a ground floor, you can't live in it, so we had to cap it off, and we said, we'll park the folks in that dirt, and then go ahead and build your project. So we sold them that property and started making some things happen. So that's the First Street apartments that we were able to build, and down a little behind here is where they parked them.
Did you advertise the property for sale?
We did. So we did what your attorney did. We would do development proposal sealed bids that said, we're looking for a developer that's going to come in and do a variety of things, and we'll take the best, highest bid or the plan that's most closely aligned with what our goals are.
I think that's what we're doing with.
That's exactly what we did from Bloomfield.
Bloomfield Street.
From Merril.
Yeah, okay, that worked. Okay.
Yeah.
And with ECU, I know that's the elephant in this presentation.
Yeah.
Because they've done this,
Yeah.
even since I've been there. I mean,
Yeah.
they're huge.
Yeah.
Do y'all partner with them, so it's a win-win situation with some of the lands that are adjacent East Carolina?
Yes, and when we got started with our land use development update,
Okay.
ECU helped fund it. They were there at the table talking about what their interests were, what we were. ECU has helped historically. I know this back whenever I was a manager, when we would need to buy a fire ladder truck
Okay.
with tall ladders, and sometimes they would contribute to the cost. So they've been very well involved. One thing that's a misnomer, we've got the medical campus, we've got ECU, 25% of the tax base in Greenville is off the rolls because we have so many nonprofits. So while we've got a lot of economic engines, a lot of it's off the rolls. And then in the late 60s, we had an industrial park that was developed, and the council at the time said, we're not going to annex it. So that's tax base off, but we're still providing service. So whereas some communities have problems, our problem is we have a lot of property that's not on the rolls. That's difficult.
Okay.
Yeah. But yes, question. Yeah.
The first redevelopment, did you guys incentivize that in any way, shape, or form?
In that case, we sold the land, and that was our involvement. We didn't provide any incentives. There's a couple of projects I'm going to show some incentives that we did add, but we didn't incentivize that one. Student housing, unless there was a public purpose, which the boundary you will see, we did a synthetic tip on that. We did incentivize that one, so we'll show that one. One of the next things we did is we said, if we're going to make this an environment, both West Greenville and city, we need to make the public's navigation a little bit better and understanding, so people get out of the car, or either if they're traveling, they know where to go. So we did a wayfinding program. We got a whole lot of heat about that. You're spending the money to show people how to get around. We said, well, yes. Because right now, you've got to have a point of interest, and if you don't know how to get there, you need to do something. So we undertook a wayfinding project. We probably did, in this plan, 300 sign recommendations for 300 signs. We built out 115 or 120 with the first round of it. And so those are some of the signs. And again, how do you get people out of the cars, get them around? Is it working? Okay, good. You're the man.
I tried.
You're the man.
I was the man.
You were the All right, so okay, so we'll
Just give us flashes of greatness.
That's right, flashes of greatness, nothing else.
So the first round, we spent about $250,000 on all that money there. All right. Town Common Master Plan, we were forced to go back and revisit that because the Town Common had become just this chasm of inactivity. We had, a band shell there, but nobody was down there. And so we said, let's rethink that. It brought up a lot of old wounds. A lot of folks said, hey, you know what? You bought my property and you just let it sit idle. I could have lived there, till whenever. And so we really went back and talked about that. That forced us to have to think about the Sycamore Hill church that was at the corner. I didn't tell the story on that. That went for at least 6 years back and forth between the city. Should we buy it or not? Sycamore Hill membership saying, no, we're not going to sell it. Finally, in the late 60s, they agreed to sell it. The city closed on it, and less than 2 to 3 months later, an arsonist burned it. Much like the Epps High School, same story. And so it was raw. It was very raw when we go into the community and talk about it. Understandably so. And so an idea came for a gateway here, which you'll see a little bit later on. So one of the first things happened, we got some money from Trillium to build a playground, and we had to augment it. They gave us, I think it was $750,000. We had to fill in the gap because you had to do a lot of grading. So we put in a playground, and this opened in 2014, and then 17 or 18 we had the restrooms. Coincidentally, I was 4 blocks away from this whenever we opened the playground. Now I sit in front of it, and every day, as long as the weather's good, you see families, kids, everybody taking advantage of that. And we're getting more activities in the downtown town common. There's still a push to develop something on the town common. There are restrictions because of the money used with the Redevelopment Commission, as well as some parkland grants we use that we can't convert that. But it became a community asset.
Is that a plus for redevelopment to have small parks?
It is, and I will say, once you lose, and I teach planning now, once you lose public space, you never get it back. And you've got to have vest pocket parks, you've got to have areas where people can get out of the office, have lunch outside. Public space is important.
Okay, and the reason I ask is, see, in our redevelopment, it's basically housing and
Yeah.
small, and it's some commercial. I just want to know if that.
No, it's a
plays
great
part.
point. It's a great question, yeah. This is the monument that we did at the corner of Green and First for the Sycamore Hill membership. We started the planning right before I retired. They had one of the designers that did the African American Museum in DC on the team, and this is what was completed at the end of 2020, and it's become a monument. And the Sycamore Hill membership, as did the EPS alumni, in spite of their feelings, contributed to the project. And so we were getting community buy-in. We looked at alleys. You all have done so much more than we have, but we had about 3 alleys, and we started thinking, how do we reactivate those? Best pocket parks. How do we take some unused property and make some things happen? So we did a best pocket park. It really looks more like this picture now. And then parking became an issue. What are we going to do with people? If we're trying to get them back, we need to deal with this parking issue. So we analyzed parking. We started restriping streets like First Street that are too wide for parking for people that work in the downtown. And then we built a deck. We built a parking deck. We did some installment bond financing separate from the general obligation bond to build a parking deck. Cost us $5.2 million. Pilings became the issue, but it was the first parking deck we had built. And so we knew we needed to do something. So tax exempt bonds were sold. They later had to refinance it because now the hotel is going up. It's going to take some of that to get into the private use questions. So we had to refinance what we financed.
Is that debt serviced off the parking revenue only, or is this?
It was with what we were doing when we first financed it. I think when we refinanced it, because of the private use questions, the cities had to kick in a little bit of money. Yeah. Reuse of vacant properties. I tell every community I talk to, take inventory of your public land that's unused, that's not going to be dedicated for parks or some other use, and put it into play. And so we had a GSA request for bankruptcy court. We put some land into play that was there, and we provided that. It was about a $4 million project. The boundary I talked about, we did a synthetic tip on this. This was an old...
Can you go back to that GSA project?
Yes.
So you provided the land and somebody else built the building?
Yeah, we had a piece, we didn't have all of it, we had a piece in the middle, and we put that into the mix with them, yes.
Okay.
We had a very large local developer that said, I'm going to build a large student housing complex on what was the Georgetown parking or multifamily area across from Chico's, but this is a big project, and I'm going to want city participation. The city was not going to participate in student housing. We were just not. And we said there had to be something transformational about this. And so we said we really want office or commercial on ground floor to provide jobs. And so that was our rational nexus for providing a synthetic tip. And when I say a synthetic tip, we pledged, along with the county, the increase in the tax base over a 7-year period, 70% of it, 7 years to the developer after they pay the taxes. Because you can't rebate taxes in North Carolina, but they can pay the taxes and you can provide a capital investment grant. So we use the increased tax base to provide $77,000 from the city and about $80,000 from the county over a 7-year period back because of the transformational nature of this project.
Now there were houses there.
That's
When
right.
I went to school, we lived there.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
houses, right? How did you get all those people
Well,
to go and to build those?
Luckily-
I'm glad you're here. I want to know this.
luckily, one developer bought that entire property.
Oh, so just laid them off. They can't refuse.
Made them an offer, he made them an offer they could refuse. Yeah, and so we jumped in and did that. We did the same thing with a grocery store. We did a synthetic tip on a grocery store in the neighborhood. I don't have a photo of that one, but we provided a synthetic tip, or the extra, the difference in the new taxes that they were gonna pay over a 7-year period to help cash flow the deal. So it was a real creative way of looking at it.
You said synthetic TIF?
Yeah, it's called a synthetic TIF. Tax increment financing is new in North Carolina. There's only been one to do it, 1 or 2 communities, and it's arduous to go to. So we've looked at it as a synthetic TIF that we can do it based on the new tax revenues that come in.
Okay.
Those of you that have been to Greenville remember this. This is the old club scene downtown,
Yep.
and it had become vacant. It was a problem. Had a developer that said, I want to come in and do this. I need an elevator on the back, and I need air rights from the city. There's a small alley that we still had title to in between the 2 buildings. We sold, negotiated lease the air rights, and then helped financially with an elevator in this building to make that happen. Then we started having other developers pop in and say, hey, I'm going to do something across from City Hall. You all got a sliver of property. Can I get that? And we said, yeah, if you do something that has street appeal. And so we started impressing our design thoughts on what happens. I saw your redevelopment commission last month, and I thought that was great. You all said this house that is going to go on a lot, we don't like the way it looks. You got to come back with something. Anytime you can do that, do that.
Okay, I know that.
I started looking at you.
Yeah, I've been a long way.
I was glad to hear a redevelopment commission say that. You need to do that.
Yeah.
We had a theater, a vaudeville era theater that was in disrepair. And if you've ever had something like this and it's exposed, the pigeons do more environmental problems in a building like this. So we got brownfield remediation grants to
For pigeons?
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
Because of the pigeon stuff.
Good to know.
And the roof was off. They said, no, you got an environmental issue. So Dunkley Dunham was our environmental contractor. We had a brownfield assessment of the city, and several sites were identified. This one was identified. We got a remediation grant to get rid of the pigeon poop and stuff and dry it in, and then we put it out for sale. And we have now a theater where activities take place in the downtown.
Is this the same grant person finding y'all all these grants? You done said grants like 9 times. Is it the same person? Or do y'all have a conglomerate of people?
We had a team. Yeah, we had a team, and Monday mornings were, okay, what have we heard over the weekend? What can we think about? And then we hired a lobbyist, and I'll talk about that too. And
About them.
So we were standing one day at Dickinson Avenue, and we said we've missed some opportunities. And so we put together a quick plan over the course of months. This was the fastest planning effort I ever saw happen from plan to actual projects. And so the Dickinson Avenue area, we started at the end of 2013. By November of 2014, it was approved. And we started saying, let's reimagine Dickinson Avenue. We know that the state's going to improve the streets. We got the street state standards. But then we started getting projects, and we did some public art in the area. Anytime we did that, Go Science now, Time for Science, now it's getting ready to move. That same developer that did the boundary is going to do condos at this corner. But that's okay, because we took the Pew service station out. We used a brownfield remediation grant for that, because lifts let go of hydraulic fluid in the ground, so we had to clean that up. We took possession of it, cleaned it up, put a Time for Science in. Now we're going to get the second generation of ownership, which is going to be condos. We started seeing about $12 million worth of investment down this street just with the businesses after we got through with the plan. And then this is where Go Science is going to go. In the cupola building, it was an old church occupied by the same Sycamore Hill before they moved out on Hooper Road. It became tap office supply. It sat vacant after they left, and now it's going to be the Time for Science. So we're still moving the pieces on the deck, but we're still getting spots occupied. We started doing a lot of small business grants and loans, so many to the point that we were recognized as a small business competition grant or governor's initiative community, because we did over 30 grants, about $450,000. That was funded from the bond. Another small business initiative we did, Project Seed. And then this project came in on the Dickinson Avenue area in the police parking lot where the police and fire rescue personnel park behind the police fire rescue building. And this one came on, it was my last deal, one of my last deals, and I thought, yeah, it's time to retire because the police and the firemen are mad at me because I'm taking the parking. But we took their parking lot, put up, I think there were 116 units in this. It wasn't just student housing, it was young professional and student housing when it was built. We had commercial on the ground floor. We built an overflow parking area for this project. That was our contribution. 10th Street Connector project I talked about. The bond that I talked about in 2004, $2 million from the city went to that, $2 million from ECU, $2 million from the hospital to fund the planning of this roadway and get it going. And so that was built.
So you set what you wanted to happen before DOT came and said, I want to do it.
Unfortunately, no. The way it ended up happening, it was already on their improvement list. We wanted to move it up, and we said we're going to participate in the planning. We were able to influence it a little bit. That roadway was supposed to have light rail on it. That had to go by the wayside, and we missed the opportunity to cross under 10th Street a little bit closer. So we lost some things, but we were able to get a roadway that has bike lanes, sidewalks on both sides.
Okay.
That's what we were able to get.
And the people that was in the road, eminent domain, is that what y'all used, or just bought it out?
The state did, yes.
State did.
And so I don't think they had to use eminent domain on any of those cases,
They just offered.
but they just offered, they negotiated, and that's what happened.
Okay.
Then we had, one back, Transportation Activity Center earmarks, and I'll talk about the lobbyists helped us secure $8.5 million to build that facility for multimodal transportation in the neighborhood, bus, train, taxi, whatever, all of that facility. So then, the certified redevelopment area. That was just to the west, 193 acres. We had 1,087 structures, 560 in some form of dilapidation, with 262 structures being vacant. We bought upwards of 200 structures in this area because
The
they were,
redevelopment commission did that.
yes.
Okay.
With the 8 million, you got it.
We had 5 million.
5 million.
Yeah, and then some of our entitlement money, because we became entitlement in '94, and that helped us, but not to the tune of that bond. Because you don't have all the federal red tape. And you're gonna probably do some of the very same things that the federal government would sign off on, but the bond gave us more capacity. So median value of homes in the area is about 52,000, land sales around 30,000. So we weren't really in an area that was really high producing. So one of the most important maps out of our redevelopment plan is the treatment map. What are we going to do with each parcel? Because as you know, when you do a certified redevelopment area, you have to specify what you're going to do with the parcel. So we did that. First thing we found out, the community said, well, it would help us if we had a community center where folks from 5 to 95 could come in. Catholic Diocese was about to sell a piece of property they had. And we said, let's buy it and create a community center there. ECU will be our master sort of director of what happens in the facility. So we got that for about $750,000, and then we put money in it to the tune of about $2.5 million. This is the lady that was named after. She was a gem of the community, passed not too long ago, but she was everyone's mother. And so we wanted to capture that. And so we were really thoughtful about how we put our arms around the community instead of keeping the community at arm's bay from us. Affordable housing. And so that's the key, and that's where I'm going to really spend the few remaining moments that I've got. I'm going to speak through this. These are some of what we did. And our affordable housing program, we were doing a lot of subdivisions around the community. We were finding in our redevelopment area, we had a lot of homes like this. And so how do we take that out and create opportunities, either working with the community college or from what we learned in the affordable housing program, how do we parcel lots together to build back something new? Taking old shotgun duplexes and creating ownership for the folks that were living in the unit. And so we did that in several of those cases. Our program began in 1994. I was a very young planner. I got started. Council, I had gotten the first small cities grant that the city had in years, because we were non-entitlement at that time, got $600,000. And then the city council gave us a charge. They said, we're going to give you an affordable housing steering committee in '91. You come up with ways to increase the supply of housing and the opportunities for people to buy houses. We're gonna give you $1 million to get started. We're gonna float a bond referendum. That was our first bond. Charlotte had just done that. We talked with Charlotte and said, Charlotte, tell us what you did. Charlotte said, you know, we basically use that $1 million to leverage other dollars. I met with our local banks. They said, well, best thing you can do for us is stay out of the way and give us income eligible buyers that are credit worthy. And I said, come on, we can do more than that. Fast forward, we start building our first subdivision. We see what you're doing. We'd love for you to change your program and do this. And I said, well, at this point, I don't need you. We're already building housing. If we need you and we need to change our program, we'll do it then. So we got started in earnest in 1994 at $1 million, and we bought our first piece of property. We did 90 loans and over 180 units, and we told the voters that $1 million, every penny will come back and we'll recycle it, and that's what we did. First thing, we built a subdivision of 3 acres, homes. We did 16. They sold between 75 and 85,000. We put in the streets, the sanitary sewer, the water, storm sewer, etc. And we built 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses, 1,200 square feet, all brick at that time. And our buyers were probably folks that were folks working in retail, young teachers, etc. $26,000 annual income. Yes.
Did you build or did you work with a developer to build?
We were the developer, and we solicited builders through a process. We said, if you can build a house that meets these specs and meets these price points, we'll deed you the lot. You'll pay us for the lot at the time of sale to an income eligible buyer.
Now, was this the redevelopment group itself doing it, or was it the city of Greenville?
This is the city. This is the city. But these are the lessons that we learned to do the redevelopment. Okay.
Is there anything about the way that you put that project together then that is not on the table now?
Still done. Same way. They're still doing it that way now. I stole it from Greensboro, quite honest. And they were doing the same thing, and I said, how did you do it? And I saw what they were doing. I said, let's do it. Hurricane Floyd hit. In between this one, we started this one shortly after that one. It was larger, 24 homes, 8 acres. Got that for, I think, $80,000 in land cost, 160 in infrastructure. NCHFA liked what we did. They self-nominated it for a Housing North Carolina award, so we were happy with that. Countryside Estates, that was when Floyd hit. And we were finishing up that one, and much like you all had Florence, we had Floyd. Survivors were doing something. We said, we've got to do something. And so we purchased this tract of 49 acres. We did 105. Closed that one out in 3.5 years. And again, North Carolina Housing Finance nominated it. They self-nominated instead of us nominating it for what we did. It's almost same price point, same style. Incomes were a little bit better, about 35,000, but still we're able to get people in pretty quickly. And so then we took that knowledge and worked in the redevelopment area. Sometimes the redevelopment commission would sell lots for what we were going to do, or we took our properties and we used money from the bond to sometimes build. We hire a contractor and build houses on those lots. And
So is the redevelopment commission responsible for selling the houses?
the city ended up selling for them.
The city was selling for them?
Because we were, it was kind of agnostic.
In our thing, we can't sell directly like that.
Yeah. The titles became vested with the city of Greenville, and so we sold them.
To the city?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we said, any of you that have been in an entitlement community know that if you don't touch everything in your consolidated plan, HUD will say, all right, you're missing this element. So we were doing so much home ownership, we had to do rental. And Greenville has a healthy rental housing market, but it doesn't have a healthy first-time or lower income rental market. And so we put some property that we had from the old school board out through the redevelopment commission for development. And we got a group out of Winston-Salem that did 48 units of affordable rentals. We did nominate that in one Housing North Carolina award.
That's a LIHTC deal.
LIHTC, low income housing tax credit, yes.
Okay.
So we did that one. Then,
This is just off the fifth, isn't it?
yes,
Right, you get to the railroad track?
the Housing Authority, we partnered with them, and I know you talked about Housing Authority.
Right.
They had a nonprofit. They said we need to build an elderly development, low profile, because elderly residents have limitations sometimes, need wider doorways, don't need a lot of steps. So we built this low profile unit, 48 units. That same bond that I talked about from 1992, we gave them a $350,000 loan for that project, which they paid us back. Then we did this one, Winslow Point, using home dollars. This was on Hooker Road. We put about $450,000 in that for $15 million development. And then,
Does the city still own that river property?
yeah, but we facilitated it by putting grant money into it so that they could get points. With the low-income housing tax credit, you want to have local commitment. And to score points and get the points, you need to have some form of local commitment. We put $450,000 into that one, $350,000 into the one that the Housing Authority did, and then a $500,000 loan for the Nathaniel Village. So we got those local commitment points, because that point spread is tight.
Were most of these sites vacant sites, or were they occupied? You had to buy the housing and everything out of it? And
This one was not vacant. The developer had title to that, and then had some units that he cleared out. The one that the school board had, we had a structure on it we had to remove. It was vacant. The other one was vacant. Yes, the other two were vacant. So we started looking, and we had said, all right, how much impact have we had? We had about $300 million worth of investment. We had been involved directly with about $250 million of it. And so we felt like we had a pretty good run. So I say there's some key steps to any community thinking of redevelopment or revitalization. Realize that the people that you're going to affect may have already been touched by redevelopment at one point in time or another. How do you put your arms around them? How do you make them feel, a part? How do you do things that are not transformative, where you're just clearing the chessboard? Develop a plan. You have a plan. Really think of a 1 to 5 investment. For every $1 you put into a project, you want 5 or more from private investment. That helps justify sort of your involvement. If it's a 1 for 1, it might be transformative, but really think 1 to 5. You're going to do a multitude of things, from infrastructure, from building housing, from building public facilities, etc. So, think of doing several things. So that multiple approach is better. Key sites. Think of what's in your redevelopment area that you can put together. If you do a LIHTC, you want probably 4.5 to 5 acres or more so that you can be competitive. And there's certain criteria that you got to meet with a LIHTC. So think 4.5, 5 acres or more. I really say consider that financial advisor out of DC. We used the Ferguson Group. We started with them in 2002. When the economy went down in 2008, we backed away for 2 years, but came back. So we spent about $1 million with them, but we got over $15 to $20 million worth of earmarks or grants from Washington as a result of that relationship.
Now, when you say that, did the city get it or did the redevelopment commission get it?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
So we would sit down with the Ferguson Group annually, and we'd say, here are the projects from the city, here's what the Redevelopment Commission wants to approve or approach, and they would arrange visits with our local delegation, and then we'd go to Washington. And we'd put together a grant. In fact, the build grant that's building the rest of the streetscape work was a build grant opportunity. We started going up in 2016, 2015. They just got funded in 2020. So that kind of gives you an idea how long some of them take. Well, we started getting money from that investment with the Ferguson Group immediately.
Is that who's Raleigh too? Or is it
We
just
just hired somebody, well, I'm no longer with them.
Okay.
They hired somebody from Warden Smith 2 years ago
There it is.
to do Raleigh. So, and it's beneficial. Public art. Consider public art with any and everything you do. It's important. It helps give the community a space that they might claim as their own. Mixed use, because you all got so much going on, you can't just develop a parcel now, particularly on a major thoroughfare, just for one use. You have to almost think mixed use because of the cost of development of land. You're going to be thinking multiple users on one parcel now because it's got to be sustainable. Identify your catalyst icons and sites. Invest in staffing. I couldn't have done it all myself. I had a great team. I had a really good team that were project leaders, that they would take it and they would just run with it. We would get together and they'd say, here's what I'm working on, here's the direction. If we need to do a course correction, we did that, but I had a really great team and we got a lot done. Transparency, that's key. You've got to build in that transparency.
Well, you got with that transparency, you got to tell board members to be transparent.
You do. And that is always a slippery slope, but it is a perfect message.
Yeah.
And that's from elected down.
Right.
You have to be transparent. So programs that we use, LIHTC, federal earmarks, I talked about that, 92 affordable housing bond, the 2004 general obligation bond, that was a total of $10 billion, $5 million from the city, for the center city, $5 million for West Greenville, our CDBG and home funding, and we did all of these things and what we did.
The bonding that was done, did the city swallow that and service it and close out, or did you have to do it on the back end?
Yeah, the city did.
The city swallowed it all?
Yeah. So what happens, maybe it's the next slide, when you do, you probably, you've already seen that, some things you can do. Bonds are a real interesting question for a community. Yeah. So a bond, typically you're going to do some public infrastructure, some transformational projects. And for communities to get involved with a bond, it's a difficult conversation because what you're doing is you're asking the general public to let you incur debt. And if we have to raise taxes, if we don't have enough growth from just the natural growth of our tax base, we'll raise taxes to pay back that debt. I think we had done it 3 times, 3 bond referendums. I was there for, it was 2, maybe 3. Anyway, we did a $25 million question the first time. That was the one with the first $1 million of affordable housing. Then we did a $20 million. That's the one where we got the $10 million, $5 million for West Greenville, $5 million for Center City. And we had other public questions like parks and roads on it, because people aren't going to come out just for those issues alone. You've got to have other things that carry the day, and each item is a separate question and ask for the voter. So consider, if you're going to do something like affordable housing or redevelopment, parlaying it with public infrastructure improvements or something like that. So that was just an article where city revitalization really paid off. Maybe we got 2 more. The value of public advisors, I talked about the Ferguson Group and what they've done for us. What's being done now? 3 quick more slides. So the Redevelopment Commission was mothballed, the last one in 2020, because they ran out of money. And the city didn't go out for additional bonding after that. So they said, really, we're running out of bond projects for you all to do. There are some things that we're going to continue in the plan to do, but we're just going to go ahead and do it, and we'll move there. We continue to build new housing through the same method I talked about. They're now working in the Lincoln Heights area. There's 3 LIHTC developments now being considered, downtown hotels going in, and streetscape. So this is the streetscape area. It's part of the build grant. That's a $42 million grant. So I didn't factor this one in with that 14 to 20. I talked about the Ferguson. If you talk about that, they got $42 million in federal funds for this that the Ferguson Group helped secure. But this is going to tie in all these areas with greenways and sidewalk and roadway improvements. This is the Lincoln Park area, additional 4 to 8 units going up there. And that's the hotel that's scheduled to open at the end of February. You all already have a wonderful set of hotels downtown. We're trying to catch up with you all at this point.
Still ain't go.
Can you go back to the Lincoln Park slide real quick?
Sure. Can't get a room down there.
And I know this is an aside, but isn't that the developer, the person who just bought the Bloomfield site, one of the people that was responsible in that?
Yeah, I think he got some houses on this end back here that he did.
Okay.
There's a different, these 4 just sold. There's another local builder that got those, but Mr. Newkirk, you all picked a great contractor. We got started with him when he was very young, or younger than he is now, I'll say it that way.
And more children.
Yeah, and he's done great work for the city, at least while I was there, and I still think they hold him in high regard, so you've got to go.
Okay, thank you.
For Lincoln Park, how many developers did you use for that project?
We had 3 builders when I was there, and they have since expanded. They may have as many as 4 more builders since I've left in that area.
And they do it the same way, deed, sell them the property, and then they build what you want them to build.
Except in these 3, I understand that they actually paid the builder to do those. We did 3 of those in Carolina Heights, so it's still the same model, where you put the specs out, you contract with the builder to build your project, and then you pay them disbursements based on elements completed. So they've used still the same version of what we did back in 92, 94.
Why is there so much space between it? The builders now are building houses like boop, 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 like you don't even have any yard space between them. And I haven't seen anything in Greenville like that. How are you avoiding that?
So our minimum lot size is 6,000 square feet.
Okay, and you do that private purchase? And
Yeah, we'll recombine them or something like that.
Okay. All right.
And
Awesome.
we get that same title, air property bug in Greenville. So if you all find a way to solve it, I'm sure folks in the city will be glad to hear it, because it's difficult. It's difficult everywhere you go.
Okay.
All right, so commit, identify, employ different methods, try to tackle a number of your affordable housing needs, partnership. I go back to what the local banks told me. We found we had a few nonprofits, some that were better than others. If we could work through a nonprofit, we did that. But eventually the banks came around. We just had to prove what we were going to do. So partnership is important. I'm not one to say partnerships aren't. We need them. Quality. I love the fact that at your last meeting, quality was at the dais. If we're going to do this, it needs to be quality. Because affordable housing doesn't have to be cheaply done. Typically, when you say affordable housing, people go, oh, well, you're thinking about, and nothing against Habitat. I love Habitat. We gave them lots, and we work with Habitat. But everyone says, oh, it's voucher housing, or it's Habitat. Well, that's great, but affordable housing can be quality.
Right.
So quality and education of homeowners. I'll leave on this last point. All of our home buyers were required to go through home buyer education. Everybody's program is that way. When we started looking at our numbers, out of 180, whenever I left, 180 units of new housing that we created, only 12 went under. That's better than local banks. I hate that those 12 went under, but I'll take 12 versus 90 or more. That means that something was working, and it was that education. And then last, stay vigilant. So I've gone over my time, but I really enjoy talking about this stuff. I'm just drawn to it. So you all are doing a great job, and if I can help, glad to help.
We appreciate you coming.
Awesome. That's pretty good.
It is a large file, so Merril and I will get together. And
Yeah, because I thought I could give it to him, and it's somehow, but I will
print a PDF or
Yeah, a
something.
lot of those last slides were really important.
Yeah, I took notes of the ones that I would love to have published and distributed to our commission at our next get-together.
Awesome.
So
Well,
maybe you can pull them out, extract them out.
Yeah,
well, let's see what we can do here.
we'll work together. I have him on speed dial.
So we thank you for already helping us.
And another person that I have on speed dial is Miss Tracy Jackson. And so we will go straight into your presentation. I spent the day with Tracy driving around Jacksonville, and I was absolutely spellbound, and I know that you all will be as well. As I mentioned before, we won't take dedicated breaks because we have a packed schedule today. But please do feel free to get up and move around and do all the things. So, with that, we'll get into this. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I love the city of New Bern. I just want to give you a quick introduction of myself. I am Tracy Jackson, the Director of Neighborhood Improvement Services with the city of Jacksonville. I'm also, just a plug, I'm also the Vice President of North Carolina Community Development Association. So when you see NCCDA come down here for conferences, it's because of me. I love New Bern, and we try to go to the west one year, and then we'll come to the east. So New Bern is definitely on my list, on my short list of places to bring a conference. Just want to go over some of the things. Mr. Flood, he hit a lot of things that the city of Jacksonville is doing. But first, I want to commend the city of New Bern and you all for having a redevelopment commission. That is something that we do not have in the city of Jacksonville, and it gives you the flexibility that the city can't do. So I do commend you all for participating in this important commission. So go ahead.
All right, just maybe.
Just want to also touch on the fact that the redevelopment plan that you all have and that you established in 2020, spot on. I was impressed when I saw that on the website. So you all are doing a great job when it comes to wanting to do something in your community, and you all have spelled it out in that plan. Okay, great. All right, so the city of Jacksonville, we have our homeownership program, we have a infill housing reconstruction program, and we also have some area benefit projects. When Zed contacted me, he says, just tell what you all are doing with your CDBG dollars, because we do get community development block grant funds as well. And the special thing that that the city council has done in 2023, September, they have established a affordable housing fund to where they allocated $1 million so that we can provide affordable housing in the city of Jacksonville. We also, city council also put $1 million in the economic development fund so that we can spur small business development in our downtown area. So I am going to go over some of the things that we're doing ground level. I know Mr. Flood, he did a lot of high level stuff, but I'm gonna bring you down so that you can do some things that are, I want to say, they're low hanging fruit, that kind of things. Okay. All right. So with our down payment project, we have a program that we mirror North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. They get home money. We do not get home money. We only get CDBG dollars. So we have developed a project, a program that all of our homeowners, they have to have a minimum score of 600. Of course, they have to qualify through our HUD income guidelines. Our sales price limits is just for new construction is $251,000. That's insane, but that is what the market is, during this time. And for existing housing, the sale price limits are $209,000. So here's our HUD income guidelines. Of course, City of New Bern, you all have yours. I think yours is a little bit lower than ours. So when you have a little bit lower income, then you're going to have to put more grant dollars in to make those projects work. So what we came up with, we offer up to $25,000 down payment assistance. We also offer our $30,000 lots. So all of our lots that we purchase, we will provide that as a grant over 10 years. So what that means is when they make the purchase, we will have a lien on the property. The first 5 years, they don't have to worry about paying it. And then the 6th year, we start deferring 1 year off until the end of 10 years. And then they will have that lot as instant equity in their house. We also do a down payment assistance to where we will bring cash to the table to complete the loan. Now what that does is it's 30 years that they can pay that back, but we have found that a lot of layering is going on with trying to get these home buyers in these homes. So with $55,000 that North Carolina Housing is offering, and then another $25,000, you're talking about at least $80,000 that they're going to have to pay again at the end of 30 years. They're going to have to refinance and then make that payment. Well, for us, at year 10, we're putting a program to where they're going to have to start paying us back in year 10, depending on where they are and their income. Hopefully, they've had some promotions, they've had some ability to be able to know that they're gonna have to pay, so they won't be getting into a lot of debt. And then they'll make a payment for like $83 or something like that over that 25 years. So that's not gonna happen until after 10 years, okay? So, Mr. Flood, he alluded to home buyers, down payment. In order to get down payment assistance, all of our home buyers have to go through a home buyer education course. The City of Jacksonville is a HUD certified counseling agency. So that means that all of our clients, they go through our classes. We also have a money management class where they also have to go through in order to get funded. Now, I know Mr. Flood said that it was 12 units that have gone under. We have no foreclosures in our program. We have
There's no competition in this industry.
we have no foreclosure because, you know, our mission is, and we take it very passionately, is our job is not just to get you in the house, it's to keep you in the house. So we take that very personal, and we take them by the hand and we guide them, and we will sometimes we have to get tough, but in the end, our home buyers, they are very gratified when they come back and say, thank you so much for helping me get my home. I didn't know that this was what we were going to get into. So by creating this healthy homes and creating this wealth for the family, that's our mission. Okay, go ahead. So with our, we work with our lenders. We do work with our lenders. We work with several other agencies. Like I said, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency may have a subsidy layer in that total loan. So when you look at this project over here, when you talk about infill construction, this right here, it used to be, the name of the complex is Country Club Villas. The name that was on the street was Merril. But the name on the street is Myrtle Wood, it's the tree. But we had so much crime going on in there that we had to work with our police department with a weed and seed type of activity. And we got all the negative behaviors out of there because we couldn't even go in and engage with the residents. They were too afraid to even come and talk to us. So we had to get that out. And once we get that negative behavior out, then the residents came out and started talking to us and telling us what they want us to do. So we purchased most of the worst looking dilapidated buildings that were in there, and we turned them into homeownership opportunities. So these are the last two that we did in that complex, and we've sold all of those properties. Yes, ma'am.
Was this CDBG funds that we used for this, or other funds as well?
This was CDBG's funds and acquisition. Yes, ma'am.
All right.
And then we did our renovation. So I do encourage you all to work with your CDBG staff so that you can see how their action plan, or how you can contribute to their action plan, so that you all can, make your mission come forward, okay?
In your experience, what's the usual turnaround time with in working with and liaising with the CDBG people?
Pleasure of that question.
Yeah, you know I was going to ask that. I was waiting to ask that question.
So I am the CDBG person. It is. So I don't.
Oh, you're an expert at this answer. You can really give an answer.
I don't know what, as far as the turnaround for that, it all depends on your pool. If you're talking about buying the property, of course, title issues. You got to clear the title issues. We can buy the property. Once we buy the property, then we have to go through renovating the property, and then once we do that, and it has to go out to a fair bid process. And for us, it's finding contractors to come in and bid on your project. And then after that, then you have to work with your home buyers to make sure that they qualify. And once they do that, we make a sale.
Okay, so it seems like a pretty quick, simple process.
Well, it's not that simple.
Well, no, I mean, the getting the homeowner and the selling that part.
You have to be focused, and you have to work with your homeowners.
Okay.
And you all depending on the amount of staff that you have. You have to, have enough staff to be able to carry over and commit to that homeowner piece. Because you may have a homeowner that wants to purchase a home, but it may take about 36 months for them to get ready.
Okay.
Because sometimes they do things that they're not supposed to do, or they do things that we tell them that you're not supposed to do, and it'll set them back, and then we'll move them forward. Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna ask, what is the stack? Because there's a lot of pieces, like identifying the properties, rehabbing the properties, the CDBG aspect, the counseling aspect. How big is your stack?
We were working, doing all this on a stack of 2. And then we were very fortunate to hire another person this past August. So we're looking to do more, especially since we have the general fund allotment for the affordable housing fund. So that takes me into another, another phase to where some other people are needed to fill in those gaps. So we were operating on a staff of 3. And we'll get about $432,000 a year in our entitlement funds. And then we'll have about $221,000 in program income. So we're working on a budget, about a $630,000 budget. Okay.
You get all the mileage for your money.
I told you she blew me away.
She does.
So with this is a house that we did in the infield construction. It's like Mr. Flood said, CDBG and HUD housing, they do not have to be cheap. So this house, we work with our builder, and I wish I could show you more pictures, but because of time, I wanted to shorten it. This builder was committed in her image. So she made sure that the materials that you put in there, you knew that this was her house, and she didn't cut costs on any of that, but she made sure that we could get a product that was affordable for our client. So this is a house, and I will tell you that this is one of the owners that came in, and she did everything wrong. And when she came back and she said, I know y'all told me not to, but I wanted to go on that trip, and I used that credit card.
Oh, boy.
We were like, Lord have mercy. So she had to go back, and then by that time, and this was in 2019, December.
Okay.
Guess what happened in 2020?
Everything doubled after that.
COVID hit, everything doubled.
Yep.
She could not afford that price. So her income, she increased her income, but she had to go back to work. She was a lady who retired, so she had to go back to work if she wanted the house. And bless her heart, instead of being able to get that $953 a month mortgage, she ended up having to pay about $1,100, almost $1,200, that extra $300 because of the prices of the houses went up. Go ahead. So Miss A, she went through our home buyer education. She also had extensive housing counseling with us, and she was finally able to close on this house. She's very proud of this house. I will say, when we go into neighborhoods, and you look at these houses and you want to get these dilapidated houses, one of the things that staff and I, we always go back and forth is trees. City of Jacksonville, we're a canopy tree community. So when you're talking about going in and doing infill construction, reconstruction, make sure that there's a way for you to put the house back instead of cutting the trees out and then putting the house on the property. So when they started this project, when you went down the street, there were trees, and I told her, don't take out any of the trees, just put in the house, because when you ride down the house, or ride down the road, I do not want anyone to identify that as a HUD house. So after the house was built and she went back on it, she passed right by the house, because the house fit on the street, in the streetscape.
Okay.
So she couldn't tell. She had to back up and find the house. And that's what we liked. So when you're looking at redevelopment, save your trees. I'm a tree hugger. Save the trees.
I know, what is it with these trees lately? Okay.
Okay, go ahead. So with our North Carolina Housing Partnership, we have to do all of our repairs, especially if we do existing homes, we'll go in and do all the repairs and make sure all of the standards are met. And then it'll take about, with that partnership with North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, it'll take about 7 to 30 days for underwriting and dealing with us and dealing with the bank, all of those subsidies and layers that come together, and then we'll end up closing. So now we have 2 more houses. This is one that we could not go by because we ran out of time, but we have sold 114 and now we have 112 for sale. Go ahead. And you know, with the concept of you don't have to have a cheaply made house, this is one of the bedrooms. Go ahead, Sarah. This is walking into the kitchen. This is our bathroom facility. And we have it for sale for $193,250. So right now in Jacksonville, that is the cheapest new construction house in the city of Jacksonville.
State of North Carolina. I see, is that slab foundation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's slab foundation, but it's a special slab foundation. It's not just sitting on the ground. It's a special one that our UDO, that our planning department have approved. So we didn't want the house just to sit on the ground.
Right. Yeah.
We wanted to, you know, have some kind of barrier for that.
So there's a barrier. Okay. So I saw
Yes.
the marble floor. So
Yes.
Okay.
So it is a barrier. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Kim, I've been listening.
So, when you're talking about what can the redevelopment commission do, what we decided to do is we had a area benefit in our New River area. We had an opportunity to put a splash pad. This is the first ever splash pad that went into Jacksonville. In our planning of our annual action plan, the resident says, we want a pool. Everybody said, we want a pool, we want a pool. Well, the city said, that's a lot of risk with a pool. So this was our answer to that. So we were able to put a splash pad in there, and we had the whole city come in that low income area using that splash pad. So of course, with that interest, the city made preparations to build several more splash pads in other parts of the city. But we were the first one to have a splash pad to answer the community needs.
You use the CDBG money to do that?
Yes, because it was an area of benefit. So you gotta find out where your small income areas are located. And that's where you can put in your CDBG dollars.
2 of New Bern census tracts are actually in our redevelopment area.
What's that again there?
The Walt Bellamy neighborhood and the Pepperfield neighborhood are both census tract, low income census.
Eligible for the
Yeah.
CDBG
Okay,
funds.
all right.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, now, we have a splash pad over, is that in the area?
Yeah, George Street.
Yeah, but it needs touching up. So, then that's city, but that's not us, right? Is that like a recommendation from us to the city to?
We can
That's
make
the
a
city, that's
recommendation.
City Parks and Recreation.
Okay, but we can do the,
So when we build it, we turn it over to the city
Mhm.
because we cannot maintain it with CDBG funds.
oh,
So
okay.
when we put
That's
that
all right.
investment,
So you just answered the question.
when we put that investment in, we tell Parks and Recreation, you all have to maintain it.
Right.
And they do,
Okay.
they
Do
do.
you get their permission before you put it in, that they will maintain it?
Oh, they come to
We'll
me.
get charged for it.
They come
We
to
are
me
running
and say,
this for
Tracy,
it.
do you have any money? And I say, I'm glad you asked. So when they come to me and I say, yes, we have money, what are you thinking about?
Okay.
And then, you know, they said, well, we want to, well, at this case, we say we want to answer that question on our citizens input survey. And what can we do about a pool? And so I said, can we explore a splash pad? So that's what we did. And we partnered with engineering. Y'all use your in-house, resources, because when you're talking about demolition, what we do is we will go out, and I'm just gonna touch on our demolition program for a minute. We will go out, we identify a demolition project, we'll get permission from the owners to, tear it down, a $10,000, up to $10,000 grant for free. We just want to eliminate slum and blight. That's all we're doing. So the ownership stays with the family. You just get everybody to sign off on it. And then we use city crews to go in there and knock everything down. And that saves us so much money when you're talking about demolition costs.
So you use the grant money to clean up areas?
So we will use our CDBG funds for the landfill costs. But we will use the city crews for the labor. So they will come out and just knock everything down, take it to the landfill, they bring us back the tipping sheets, and we'll pay that.
With CDBG?
With CDBG.
That's eliminating slum and blight.
Their budget last year, if you remember the CDBG funds, they had $70,000 in there for demolition work.
Okay.
Don't you remember us talking about that? Why can't they do some of our demolition work?
They did.
Because we've been paying for that.
Just FYI, West 8th Street and Bloomfield were both paid
Yeah, right.
for by the CDBG.
Yeah, we do that, but we're like, okay, Bloomfield was. But Bloomfield was.
This is just ways that you all can stretch your CDBG dollars.
We backfilled it.
Okay, see, I didn't know we back. Okay, good, we're good. All right, I don't have any more questions.
But what I'm hearing here, there's also an opportunity to use those funds to target other parcels that we don't own
Yes.
and reach out to the people that do own them and use those funds for demolition.
Yeah.
With
So, I mean, I've got a half dozen
reducing blight.
abandoned houses in my head right now.
Well, no, at First, Second, and Third Avenue Blight, remember we cleaned it up and we couldn't go on their property because, you see what I'm saying? All right, so, okay,
Okay.
all right, yeah, this is good.
But,
We're on the next level.
but you go back what she said, you gotta get the family to sign off on it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, but hold on, but it's different when you say, I got 10 G's for you, I need to talk to the family. You see, it's different when you, it's how you, right, you have, I need to talk to you and your brother, and I got $10,000. You don't think they're gonna be at the table at 10 o'clock?
And it's still yours.
All right, in the interest of Tracy's time, we're gonna have
This is fine. This is fine. I just want to also add, because y'all are exactly where I need you all to be. I need you to be in the weeds. Okay, so we also help, like I said, we use our internal resources, code enforcement. So all of the minimum housing cases that come before, we're in those hearings. So it's like, here's the city saying you have to do this, you have to abide by the ordinance, the UDO, the code, you're not doing it. And this is the consequence. If you don't do something, you're gonna have fines, whatever. We'll take it to council, and council will order it torn down. And then a lien will be put on your property. Then you have me in the meeting and say, I can help. I have a $10,000 grant that you can utilize up to $10,000. All you have to do is sign. We'll partner with our city departments, and they will tear it down for you, and you will maintain ownership. 9 times out of 10, I have the cake. I'm the superhero. Okay? So that's how we work with getting slum and blight eliminated. We have 180, ever since we started counting in 2010, we have eliminated 180 structures.
Wow.
In Jacksonville. We also have an opportunity to use CDBG dollars for a sidewalk. And the reason I put this here is because this is the sidewalk going into a neighborhood. And this neighborhood told me, no, y'all can't come into our neighborhood and put sidewalks because the city will take, and it's just a misunderstanding, miscommunication, not understanding about easements. So I knew that this neighborhood was a low income neighborhood, and I knew this neighborhood needed something, and it needed some CDBG investment. So I asked the church, who was the cornerstone of this neighborhood, going in, could I put sidewalks into that church? And of course, the church said, no, we heard about the city. And basically, I went to the pastor and say, now, pastor, God forbid your church would burn down. So if you wanted to rebuild, guess what you're going to have to do?
Put sidewalks out.
You have to put sidewalks.
That's right.
He says, really? I said, yes. So you need for me to put this $280,000 sidewalk going into this neighborhood. And he went back to his congregation and they agreed. So that's how we got sidewalks going into a low-income neighborhood. We also, go ahead. We also put bathrooms in that low-income neighborhood. It was a park there, and it was a cinder block building that had been there since 1937. I lived near that area, so when my grandbaby came, and she wanted to use the facilities, we poked our head in that dark building, and I'm like, no, they need a bathroom. So even though they didn't let me go into the neighborhood, I knew they needed me, so we put a bathroom in that neighborhood, and now they have a nice new bathroom in that neighborhood. We also put we put a trail right in there. We put a walking trail, and along the walking trail, we also put exercise equipment because there were senior citizens that were living in that neighborhood. So not only children lived there, with some senior citizens. So we did something for the senior citizens to be able to stay healthy.
Was this used to be a city park or something?
Yes, we spruced up this city park. There was a way for us to spruce up this city park.
City park, okay.
Yes, in a low-income neighborhood. Go ahead. And this is the playground equipment that we also replaced. Some of the playground equipment that we replaced, in the benches that we replaced in that neighborhood. So when you're looking at ways to spend money, and you all seem though you have a budget, and if you have a budget, I know you want to do something, just think about the areas that you can go and invest, because these are areas probably that have the oldest, longest residents in your city, and sometimes they can tend to be forgotten because new development is coming, and new development is usually getting the attention. But make sure that you all have the power to take care of your older neighborhoods, and it's, for me, I take care of my seniors. They are, I say they my babies because they have paid the taxes the longest. And they have they pay they pay the taxes the longest, and they also have a limited income. So I tend to, whenever we have a senior person that come in there, everyone benefits. If you HUD income, qualified, you're going to get some assistance. But we make sure that our seniors know all about our programs. Okay. Go ahead and see. I think this was last. Yes. So you all had some good questions because, like I said, we're down here as far as getting the money spent, getting the projects done and complete. I do know your community development representative. We have worked together in several projects and all of that. I didn't mention rehab. We also have a rehab program. Our 5-year plan, we have several goals. And rehab is also included in that, along with the other things I mentioned. But I also wanted to just leave you with, we started a new program this year, and it's the Small Business Development Program, where we just got a solicitation for an allocation of $50,000 for someone to come in and be a mentor and develop our small business community. We are behind when it comes to our downtown, and we're trying to revitalize. We try to get everybody's trying to get like New Bern. But we're trying to revitalize our area. Y'all did a great job. And this is one way that we can incentivize people to come back downtown, because they left our downtown and we maximize Western Boulevard. So if you all have ever been to Jacksonville, y'all know what Western Boulevard looks like. So everybody went to Western Boulevard, and now we're trying to get people to come back to our downtown area. So that's a new program that we are going to be implementing this year, along with our annual action plan. So we're looking to do some more good things with the city of Jacksonville. We're looking at different options for affordable housing. So y'all just keep looking in the future and for us in the next 2 years.
Okay.
All right, is there any questions that you have for me?
You got any influence with that, y'all need a new superintendent in June. You got any influence with that person?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. She said also, I'm saying.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Touched nerve and inspired some conversation, I'm sure in the future, so I appreciate you coming this morning.
Yes, and I can, Zeb has me on speed dial, so he knows that I will send him any of our programs. One thing about our industry, we don't try to recreate. We will share information and y'all make it your own.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
And to both of our speakers, you are welcome to stay for the entire meeting,
Got
but
one
you do
more
not
hour.
have to.
I was gonna say, I have another commitment
But
that I
if
am
you
late.
leave, you must take some food with you.
Yes.
That is part of the
Can I
plan.
ask them both a question before they leave, since they're all leaving?
Yeah,
I was
I've got
gonna
a
save it for
question.
later. Has there ever been, okay, I'm just thinking ahead, all right? Has there ever been in any city or any of your experience that you've ever heard a city that takes on a program like, to intentionally start to clear titles? Like have a year whereas you put the call out to the owners, like we need you to contact us so we can get these, you see what I'm saying? So we're not every time running into a title issue, but we try to at least get 80% of the titles right in a year, 2, 3, what's happening. Is there anything out there like that?
I think that's a fantasy for everybody.
I'm just asking, I mean, I'm just, you
I
know.
think it has been some legislation that have changed, some laws that passed about the title, about air property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we tried to have a legal aid representative to do a title and will workshop in our neighborhood years ago. I don't know if it's continued or not, but it's really about information. It's, you know, how do you get people, families to discuss the uncomfortable
Right.
and do,
Okay.
yeah.
I will tell you, we had this one lady, she was a sibling of, she had 2 other siblings had passed away, and she was the last one. And those siblings had a son and a daughter, okay?
Next generation.
The next generation, and they moved and went up north. We needed them to we offered to sell their interest, to buy their interest if they would sell it to us. They refused because they said your price was too low. So she ended up going to court because she paid the taxes. The judge says, okay, let's see you're right, you have ownership. Let's see who did the maintaining of this property for all of these years. They paid not one tax, not one insurance, not one maintenance, nothing on this property. And we needed to replace her house and move it from right here at the sidewalk back. So after the judge finished with them, that $15,000 whittled the way down to $3,000.
Wow. So they should have took it in the beginning.
So there is that they can go to court if they, because she really needed to have her house, and the judge ordered the sale, and they had to sell their interest to her, and that's how we got. That's how we move forward. So. It is what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
What is the
Redevelopment Commission of Newburgh, can you guys give our speakers just one more round of applause?
I'm just curious, what's your entitlement in Newburgh? How much?
About $250,000.
And what about Jacksonville?
We get about $432,000. And then we also we set up our program so we have a revolving loan fund. So all of our loans, like the $25,000 down payment assistance. And we also partner with multifamily developers. So when they come in and ask for CDBG funds of about $200,000 to $300,000, that's in the form of a loan, a 2% interest loan. And they will get that to mirror with scoring of the tax credit competition. So,
not to lead you too much, but I do want to direct you back to your power sheet. Giving loans is one of the things that a redevelopment commission can do. So a revolving loan program is within the realm of possibility for us.
so that's how we have a total budget of over $600,000 every year because we get program income from those loans.
You won't be eligible for a home consortium between you and Onslow. You won't touch. You all might be eligible as a home consortium, additional money out of the home program. So just,
If you include Onslow.
We'll do.
Trust and believe. They're going to make it work.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That was awesome, man. That was great.
All right.
All right.
Before they leave, any more questions for either of them? All right.
As long as you got a little speed now, we're good.
I have my speed dial, I
Good.
promise.
Okay.
All right.
Let me introduce you.
Oh, you want me to?
Let me introduce you.
Oh, yes, Madam Chair. I
Because we are
apologize.
very blessed. I saw one of the things in Mr. Flood's presentation was to have a good, have multifaceted staff. And there you are. There's our staff,
All
right
three
there.
of you.
All three of you.
All three of you, right there. So we appreciate you, and now we want you to give us your annual report.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate working with you and having the opportunity to work with you all year long, every year. Part of our duties per the general statute is to number one, have a budget. And so this morning I'm going to go over some proposed budget numbers with you. I'm not going to get into too much detail on how we're going to plan to spend those dollars, only because we're going to close session at the end to talk about acquisition, an acquisition strategy for this next year. But I will go over our budget. We also have the obligation to report to the public what we've done with the public funds that we manage in the last year. And so, very quickly, I just want to congratulate you all on all of the projects that you completed in the last year. I don't know if you remember or not, but we conveyed and partnered with Carolina East Health Systems, and we have agreed to help fund a health and wellness clinic. I'm happy to report that just this week, permits were granted to Carolina East, and they will be breaking ground and are on schedule to finish that project before the end of March. After the health and wellness clinic, we moved on to Walt Bellamy Avenue. You guys don't remember that at all, but those three houses that you all built over the span of a couple of years were sold this past year to the New Bern Housing Authority. Those homes will be utilized for FEMA replacement homes in the Trent Court redevelopment effort, which the Redevelopment Commission is named as a co-developer and partner in. I'm going through my list here, sorry guys. We started work, we broke ground on the West A Street development, which Kip has been giving me eyes about all morning. When we talk about deeds and titles, one of the reasons it's really important for us to do the work on deeds and titles is because when the deeds and titles get into the hands of developers, it's expensive and tiring work. We've been working with our current surveyor since I think we engaged in April.
Last spring.
Yeah, April of 24, and we still to date don't have a a completed site survey because the lot lines and the lot lines are that complicated. Right now, just to give you an update, the surveyor is waiting for a resolution to come from the city. The lawyer, so according to I know you're going into the weeds because you all want me to be done with this so you can get to your part first. But
Take it down.
In short, the Ways and Means make reference to a street that no longer exists but was never closed by the city. So there needs to exist a document, like Jamie was saying earlier, a resolution that says the street no longer exists from the city, and we're hoping we can get that done, or that it already exists. So the legal team is on that. As soon as we have that, I'm told by the surveyor that we should be able to get an accurate drawing, because so far we have two that are not accurate. We should be able to get an accurate drawing and get to the business of subdividing the West 8th Street project. That make sense? Most recently, we closed on the Bloomfield project, where we sold 3 parcels to Unshakable Builder for the sum of $15,100. On each of those parcels, they will develop a duplex that will be available as affordable and accessible housing to low to moderate income individuals. They are utilizing a number of federal dollars to get to close the gap project, and I know that they just sat with the building inspector with site plans this past week. So they're moving right along and promised it, and they are showing promise that they will break ground within the allotted 6 months. So we did a lot. We have done a lot this year, and I would say in the next year we have a lot more to accomplish. Still on our docket, that's been on our docket since I started, is 9/11 Eubanks. In our December meeting, we met and you all gave me guidance to put out a bid for quotes to have that property appraised. That bid went out in January. We got 4 quotes from local appraisers, ranging in price from $1,000 to $495. I chose the $495 appraisal, and that
$495,000?
$495.
Dollars.
Oh, for the
Dollars.
appraisal, I think.
Yeah, for the
To do the appraisal.
Okay.
to do the appraisal. Sorry.
You're talking about the value of the
The
house.
quote.
I was like, what?
I would say I'm going to hire you guys as house flippers if the appraisal comes back at $495,000. No, the cost of the appraisal came back for $495, and that appraisal was complete as of yesterday afternoon. So in the next 10 days, we'll get the report. I will disseminate that report to you all, and at some point in the future, perhaps before the February business meeting, we can call a special called meeting to initiate the sealed bid process for the house on Eubanks. Yes, ma'am.
Didn't we have to get 3 appraisals, or did that go away? The one
So-
we had, somebody said 3 appraisals.
So the CDBG requirement requires us to get 3 quotes for the appraisal, so that we're getting the market fair price for an appraisal. We got 4 quotes to satisfy that requirement, and I chose the lowest the lowest quote to get that done. So we are making progress on the Eubanks house. We have stayed in close communication with potential buyers, and so we do anticipate that once we initiate the sealed bid project for the Eubanks project, we will get a buyer and be able to go to closing rather quickly. One thing I've been in conversation with our CDBG staff about is when that mortgage is taken on 9/11, that money will go back to CDBG, and there is a possibility, if the commission is so inclined, for that money to be pooled into a redevelopment commission designated pot. so that we can have a pot of money that is, it will still fall under CDBG rules, but it will be designated for redevelopment commission purposes, if the commission is so inclined to explore that option. And if that is an option that you'd like to explore, you can certainly give me direction to find out some particulars and report on that to you at an upcoming meeting. I see a lot of heads nodding.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hereby directed.
Hereby directed. As far as ongoing projects, those are our ongoing projects. As far as residential development goes, another thing that you all have been able to do since I came on staff, I say that because I go to the mall, is we get to engage in neighborhood community meetings. And I don't know if you heard it when the two presenters were speaking this morning, but a lot of what we do has to do with turning public perception and telling the story to the public. And I would say that that's 75% of the job of this commission, is to know what the public is saying. So i.e., in Tracy's example, when she said that the community wanted a pool, the only way she knew that is because she spends her time in churches and in Duffield Residence Council meetings hearing, we want pool, we want a pool, we want a pool. And that gives us ideas so that we can be creative and say, okay, a pool is a little bit high risk, but maybe we can put a splash pad. In our case, I'll tell you that there's problems with the homeless population going to using these people's backyards as a restroom. So the public restroom, say in a place like the Walt Bellamy Park, would be fantastic. But we don't know that kind of thing unless we're out in the public attending these council meetings and attending these community meetings. So if there's one thing that I would probably urge you as a commission to keep on doing and to be very intentional about doing, is go to community meetings. And not just the Duffield community meetings or the Walt Bellamy community meetings, but all of the community meetings, to really show your presence, because it makes a difference. When Board of Aldermen meetings are happening, or zoning, I mean, you heard Tracy, when the zoning and planning meetings are happening, those are the times and places where local situations are popping up, where we can say, where we can put on our cape and we can say we can help with that. But we don't know what's happening unless we're there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you have like a centralized calendar with all those kind of things? Because I mean, I'll sporadically hear or see something here or there, but
Right.
I mean,
If
that's all I know.
If that is of interest to you, I can certainly send out calendar invites whenever I put it on my calendar. And I can just include you guys as a group on that calendar invite, so that you're aware.
Okay.
Because again, very, very important. Any other questions?
Sorry for interrupting.
No, please interrupt away. Otherwise, I'll babble on forever.
While you're on bathrooms, is there something on the docket for the bathroom out at the fields of Stanley, Old Stanley? There's porta potties out there right now, which is pretty disgusting. But
At the back of Henderson Park?
yeah.
I don't think so, but that is certainly an area of benefit that we could partner with CDBG really, really easily to get done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Who's gonna lobby the city of New Bern to have them not put it on our budget going forward, the upkeep of those bathrooms? Or we're gonna end up
nice.
breaking ourselves
Yeah.
if we build all
Yeah.
these things and the city of New Bern won't help us upkeep them. We're gonna use our whole budget upkeeping bathrooms and splash pads.
Well, I think there's an important differentiation that we have to make. Our general fund, and I don't know that I've ever said this to you all, so I want to be able to say this to you all. Our general fund is for the procurement and the cure and blight cure for property and parcels. So as far as maintenance, similar to the way you can't use CDBG funds for maintenance, we can't use our general fund for maintenance.
We do that now.
We do that now already.
So I knew you were going to say that. I guessed you all were going to say that. We only maintain projects that have ongoing work. So if it is an open project, it is considered work being done. After, say we sold Walt Bellamy to the city of New Bern, and we, or this is a bad example, but say we operated our Walt Bellamy houses as transitional housing for individuals, for short-term rentals, similar to the program you all were talking about. We wouldn't be, once it's operational and there's someone actually living in it, we wouldn't be able to use our general fund dollars to maintain those. They would be maintained under the city's budget, probably under Parks and Recreation budget specifically.
So you're saying they consider all the lots that they mow, they consider those current ongoing projects of
Yes,
ours?
because they're on our list for sale, we're selling those parcels.
No, we took them off the list and they ain't selling. Then
If we took them
they'll
off-
revert back to them cutting and Parks and Rec cutting.
Basically, we would convey back, what you're
Well, no, I wanna
what
convey
you're
back to them.
suggesting
Right.
is we would be conveying those lots back to them.
I think that's a weird,
It is a weird
that's
delineation, and,
that's just somebody
Somebody
making
came
the
up with a
rules.
way, yeah, somebody came up with a way to put it on our budget.
yeah.
That is correct.
So what, to answer your question, that would be one of my jobs, to make sure that, to make sure that the maintenance costs got planned to go to Parks and Recreation, in the case of a bathroom.
And
Okay.
I would say
Awesome.
let's figure out how to get the existing ones off too. I mean, we're paying 10, 20, whatever grant, however many grand a quarter for that. It shows up in the budget. It's like
Mhm.
10 grand a quarter, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
so
it's just too much.
It really is.
It is.
It's a lot of money.
it is a lot.
So we need to figure out how to not make them ongoing projects.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can spread logic around and see.
Oh, I asked the city, can they, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Mhm.
Working on being my favorite lawyer.
I don't have an idea yet, but I'm not done thinking.
But the thing is, you give them back to the city.
No,
Well, don't give them back. No, don't give them back.
no. I'm saying.
But it'll be hard getting it back from them, so.
Because there's a lot of property in our redevelopment commission area that we don't pay for them to mow. Right?
Is it?
Not that we
No,
know.
we pay them.
That, the
If we own
pay
it, and we don't pay for landscaping, we pay for abatement. So basically, we don't keep our parcels landscaped, we keep them abated. And so, once every 3 months, each property that we own is brought into compliance. So we can certainly look at options that we have to make that happen. I mean,
So that figure for maintenance is every 3 months, this thing,
I
y'all
was
keep
just
that?
about to say the same.
every parcel every 3 months.
I'm about to start a volunteer business. Oh my God.
I mean, they go out every month, but it's on a rotation. So they touch
Right.
one of our parcels
Every 3 months.
every
Every 3
yes.
So the grass gets knee high. We're talking-
Before they cut it.
It's more like ankle high, but yeah.
It's ankle high because it's wintertime. In the summertime, it's
But
gonna be knee
yeah,
high.
that's-
I mean,
I was about to say that, when we compared, you did like a bid and we decided we were much cheaper, any lawn care place is gonna mow it every 2 weeks. Let's go get a hire a private lawn care, it's mowed every 2 weeks.
that is a big
Versus
expense
every
on that
3
budget.
months.
I'm just saying,
We can certainly, I have no problem researching better options. And if you all give me direction, it sounds like you all are giving me direction.
I mean, we'd rather the
To
city
research
not
that.
be so, the way they're being about it, but here we are.
Especially if there is a landscape business that is being operated in the redevelopment commission.
Yeah. Somebody who works right.
Somebody who works in the
and
area
Yep,
and knows the area, I'd rather give the money to them.
yep, 100%.
Larry Moses still got his volunteer, he'll do it.
This actually brings up another opportunity for us. If we're going to consider going out for an independent contractor for landscape services that we can call upon, it might not be a bad idea to explore the idea of providing subsidized lawn care for owner-occupied parcels in the redevelopment zone, so that we're beautifying the boundary area and reducing the amount of fines and fees that the residents who live in our boundary area are paying. Because I will tell you, anytime that Public Works goes out and abates a citizen's home, that's $110 for them. So it might be worthwhile to look at that.
That's an interesting idea. I don't know that we can really make a decision, but I see everybody's heads spinning in here, so I would like everybody to think about that as a potential thing to.
Oh my God, I'm still thinking about $110 a year.
I don't know, mine's
Yeah.
55.
Oh, exactly, that's what mine is, 55, and it's double.
Everybody go around.
Right, tell me about it. I mean, golf course.
So what does that mean for that resident? They just gets billed against their tax lien? Because if they can't afford it, what happens to that?
Well, the Public Works will come in and clean it up, and then they'll work out a payment. They'll work out a payment on that. And my point in bringing that up is part of our responsibility in reducing blight is reducing things that the average person, the average population, wouldn't have a problem with. If you got a $110 bill in the mail, it might make you mad for a couple of seconds, but it wouldn't change your month. The individuals who live in our boundary area, for by and large, when they get a $110 bill in their mailbox, that changes the landscape of their entire month. And so if we can come in and start working with families and those kinds of things to change quality of life, so that their cash flow isn't getting waylaid by things that are common to everybody else, then we're doing that work of changing hearts and minds in community outreach. So I give that to you, I offer that to you just so that we're thinking beyond building houses and residential development. We have a much larger range that we can work in. Tracy, actually, I wish she had talked about it. In Jacksonville, they have a program where similarly, instead of getting a fine, you can go to the city of Jacksonville and borrow a lawnmower, and you can borrow the lawnmower, mow your lawn, and return it, and it costs $10 to get your lawn mowed, plus whatever you pay the kid down the street who actually does mow the lawn. They have hedge trimmers, they have weed whackers, they have sidewalk blowers. All these things are available for public use, and she's already sent me the parameters of that program. I'd be happy to share that with you if that's an alternative that you're interested in.
Right, but see, that's exactly, I think, what I was saying. Push lawnmowers, $250, 110 times 12 months. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
That's $1,000. So instead of going 110 the other way, that resident is now going this way. Cutting their own lawn.
Yeah.
But with a give and take type of program, instead of us keep paying and seeing that big line item on our budget getting whacked every. I mean, it's expensive.
Realize though is the lots we're talking about are not lawns. They're rough with sprouts, hardwood sprouts and everything coming up on.
That's because they don't know them regularly.
Well, I know it's
Keep the same as hardwood bush hog. It's like
Yeah.
flat, so yeah.
Yeah,
it's not your yard. It costs you $65. It is a piece of unkept, unmaintained property that has all kinds of stuff on it. That your $250 lawnmower
Would tear all the pieces.
tears all the pieces the first time it got mowed.
But the overarching idea is one I think that's important, is that, we always say, we've said it over the years, we're not here to make money and keep it in the bank. It's good that we have money, and it's good that we have more money than we've ever had right now. But if we can put the money to good use to reduce blight,
Yes.
reduce the perception of, and actually reduce being a dangerous neighborhood, you know, taking down a lot of brush and things, paying somebody to do that kind of thing is a great outreach to the community just as much as building houses. Or maybe not just as much, but it is a reach out to the community.
But what I took away from that there are CDG funds available to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did learn that today.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing, the overwhelming thing I heard was, man, we ain't tapping into anything. That's there.
Yeah, we have opportunity, we have opportunity, and back to my earlier point, one of the reasons we're not tapping into those things is because when CDBG has their annual action planning meeting, there's no one from RDC that has been there until I literally stalked the Asia. So
I was like, and/or invited. It's not like everybody's too busy.
Yeah. It's about knowledge, and you all are volunteer citizens. So like, don't hear me as wagging my finger at you.
No, I'm just saying from the
Hear me
cities.
more. Yeah, hear me more. Say we have an opportunity to grow, to change the way that we're doing things, and so. I mean, somebody's got to pay Public Works, or somebody's got to pay somebody to keep the grass mowed. And I already wear 3 hats. I ain't mowing no grass for y'all. So we have to figure that out. There are ways to do that. We can look into grants. We can look into grants. That's a granting opportunity. The summer workforce.
Yep.
We can do those kinds of things. But we have to think creatively about that and make sure that we're intentionally planning those kinds of things out. Because you are right, it is a lot of money that we spend every year for that. Talking about money, I'm going to be very quick because I promised Merril and Tracy that they could take as long as they wanted because I was going to be very, very short. And so if you go to in your packet, my report is actually in your packet, so you don't have to remember all this stuff, but it is there. I have a breakdown of our financial activity for the last 12 months. When we entered into,
What page you say again?
Sorry.
it looks like this. So I did actually ask for them to be numbered, but when I got them, they were not numbered. Unless yours are.
It's 107.
Oh, that's way back there. Okay.
107.
There are no.
Yeah, they're numbered, but the numbers show. Like,
Okay,
it's what section you're in, 107.
gotcha.
There we go.
So, I'm glad yours are numbered, because that's supposed to be numbered.
God bless you.
Bless you.
I think I'm done.
All right. January 2024, our fund balance of unassigned funds, which is our general fund balance, was $366,683.14. Over the last year, we have utilized $16,377.73 in what's called other professional services. We've utilized $2,283.65 in utility costs for Walt Bellamy and Eubanks. And in that professional fees, the other professional services costs are the abatement costs that you all are referencing. Sorry. And as of 12/31 of 2024, our fund balance was $844,531.75, and that was due to the sale of the Walt Bellamy project and the parcel sales that we did last year. Included in that number is not the Bloomfield project yet, because that didn't close until January.
So that
Questions?
844 plus.
Huh?
844 plus.
844 plus 15.
Gotcha.
So that's about 860.
Okay. All right.
In that last column on that page, you will see the proposed budget for 2016. 2026. It's the last column on that same graph at the bottom of the page. And I just simply use the projections. I use the projections from this year to project next year's budget. The only thing that has changed is land and structure, and that is because a couple of project groups last year talked about property acquisition, and I wanted to actually plan for property acquisition this year. And so when we go into closed session, we'll talk specifics around property acquisition and why that number is $200,000.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Any questions about the proposed budget? This budget will be proposed to the Board of Aldermen and adopted somewhere around May. So we have some time to change these numbers if something about these numbers don't make sense to you all. But I wanted to make sure that you were presented with the budget before I presented it to the Board of Aldermen, so that I had your thoughts on it and your blessing on it when I present it to the Board of Aldermen. Does that make sense?
It does, and this is probably a question I should know the answer to. Does the Board of Aldermen have us included in their budget?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Which category is the mowing and other professional services or utilities?
I apologize. I gave you that list and didn't explain it to you. So the gray coded things are the 70-30, the 111 organization, which is the city of New Bern. Those are the costs that the city of New Bern pay to provide me to you all, minus my salary, because that comes out of HR's budget, not ours. The 2116 organization is the redevelopment fund. So everything highlighted in yellow are things that you all pay. Everything highlighted in gray are things that the city pays.
Okay, and other, is that the lawn care, other professional services?
Other professional services is lawn care, yeah.
And utilities, at this point in time, is that just the Bloomfield house? I mean, what other things do we have that take utilities?
It is just Eubanks at this point.
I'm sorry.
So
Yeah,
last year included in the $2,000 number is
Walt
is Walt Bellamy, all three Walt Bellamy buildings.
Okay.
So we're estimating 4,500 just if we acquire other property and have to carry them for a while, that's what.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I estimated 4,500 based on the acquisition strategy, which I'll outline for you all when we go into a closed session.
So that's why the lights was on when we went to Eubank Street.
Yes, the lights
Shocked
are
me when we
on.
went in, I mean, it was on, I mean, the refrigerator was going and everything. I mean, it's the craziest thing. So, okay.
But you gotta keep it up for it.
You do, gotta keep air flowing through it, so, yeah. Okay.
Just so you know, all of the houses also get, any house that I manage, any property that I manage that actually has a parcel on it, we clean those houses as well, so that we're making sure that we're mitigating mold and those kinds of things as well. So we want to make sure that the houses that we are putting online stay quality houses for a long time, certainly as long as they're in our custody.
Okay.
Any other questions on this page?
So
Steve?
if I'm following your color coding here correctly, the 844, we'll call it 845, that we were showing in our 2-1 org right now, you're budgeting roughly 235,000 out of that. So for actual project purposes that we're looking at or thinking, if we were to go something above and beyond the 200,000 land and structures right here, we've only got 600,000 to play with, not 844.
As long as the strategy, as long as we stick to the strategy. But based on what we've been able to do in the past, I don't see us spending more than 200. These numbers are very conservative, and so I think our carry forward budget will be 600 plus whatever we sell in the next year.
Right, so but I'm just making sure these funds in yellow are not additional allocation from the city going into our board.
No,
It's
that's
our balance going in.
right.
Our budget.
Coming out of ours.
Right, those are expenses coming out of ours in the yellow.
So those aren't, I mean, that's just kind of, I guess, rubber stamp approval from the city then, because it's our fund. As long as they don't get crazy with it, that's, I mean, that should be, the only thing in question should be the grade.
That's correct.
The thing that I heard from both presentations is the cities that they involved in all contributed into redevelopment commissions and housing and so forth like that.
And some finances. She said, remember he said he gave a third. It was a third, a third, and a third. So
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
there's,
the third was from a bond that was issued.
yeah.
by the city. You see what I'm saying?
Actually, one of the, so in full transparency, over the last 12 months, I've met with 36 Tracy and Merrils.
Good work.
I've made it my business to get all over the state and to meet with everybody doing redevelopment in the state. I specifically had Tracy and Merril come today because of the bond referendum. I don't know if you all are aware of this, but in this upcoming election, general use bond referendums will be on the ballot, and there's no reason that if not this election, the next election we shouldn't have a redevelopment bond referendum as well. I just don't think that this commission has ever had that conversation, and so I wanted you to hear someone who got it done, who made it work, and see what could be accomplished with those kinds of dollars as opposed to these kinds of dollars. Because
What is going to be on this bond referendum?
it's a lot of infrastructure stuff. So
I mean, there's no way to ask them to include some housing in authority into that presentation, or is it already locked up and it's a done deal?
I don't know that it's a done deal. I can certainly have a conversation with the city manager and see if we can submit something for this election for this election. But again, that I want to make it very, very clear on the record. I work for you all, so I only do what you all tell me to do. So it's conversations like this that drive the other conversations. So if you all say to me, anytime there's a funding opportunity that could potentially be something we can take advantage of, we want you to research it and present it to us as soon as you find it. I'm happy to do that.
Second.
Well, okay, in Zeb's defense on this, he can make that ask, but the comeback to us is going to be, okay, you want us to tack $2 million on what we're doing right now. I mean, that would be, in my mind, that's where my head goes, is an ask. That's more than enough to do something, but not enough that it's going to completely and totally bust those bonds.
Mm-hmm.
So if we make that ask, then the immediate comeback is going to be, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah,
Because whenever you get those funds,
Right.
you have to start doing something with those funds. You can't just sit there and hold them for
Right.
5 years
And
while
see-
you're doing something.
And this is where,
That's a good thing.
this is where your leadership comes into play.
Sure.
Personally, I'm depending on you to tell me we have a chance to get a grant. My recommendation is, let's present it to the city. I want to use the money here, here, and here.
Yeah, we can spend the money still.
But as a leader, I think you need to take that and then share with us your ideas, and we say, okay, fine, go ahead. But you need to help us with ideas, and we need to help you with ideas.
I'm happy to do
So
that.
don't always say, I gotta wait on you. No, you call me up and say, this is my idea, what you think about it?
Okay.
That's what
Now,
you need,
and look, he's right though.
Yeah,
Because
you
you're
know-
36 people into this. So you have way more knowledge base than anybody.
Right, you got more contact with stuff, but we don't. And when you find something out, say, hey man, I found $10 on the floor, what you want me to do with it? You know, I mean, really.
All I'm gonna say is,
Don't call me and ask me. Ask me.
forgive Julius, he does not know what he's asking
Oh,
for.
Lord, Julius.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I want to say.
And I know
this
I
out
respect,
loud.
I know what you're doing, right.
I want to say this out loud, just for the record.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is 18 months into this.
Right.
So I spent 18 months learning,
Yeah,
and I have some good ideas. I think they're good ideas.
Thank you.
And so one of the things that I want to do is, as we go into closed session, is talk about those ideas,
Okay.
And how we're going to accomplish those ideas to make them a reality, and what we can do to push the needle forward, because we need to move the needle. Go ahead, Steve.
So I guess, as far as guidance for you goes, can we kind of uniformly say, we would like for you to express our interest to be included in this, and if there is an appetite, then we can get something moving very quickly on what a project list looks like on things.
Awesome.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right,
And, I mean, I'm in the process of writing bonds right now, and I can tell you, unless they're gonna give us $10 or $15 million worth, it's gonna be a whole lot easier to tack $1 million or $2 million on top of what they're already doing
Okay.
than it would be to start from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Couldn't agree more.
And one up, are you through with your report?
Huh?
Are you through?
This is your meeting, so I have a couple additional items, but basically.
I'll cover it on my 1 minute statement.
Okay. So last thing is travel and training for this next year. If you turn the page from where you're looking, as I mentioned, part of my job is to scour the world to figure out what's going on and what's working in other locales. One of the ways that I do that is through travel and training. And so there's an economic development finance professional certification program that I'd like to take advantage of this year. There's a certified zoning officials certificate credential that I would like to obtain this year. And then the Public Housing Association conference, which I just went to last week, I'd like to go again next January. So also I'd like to procure membership to the Carolina Council of Housing Redevelopment Code Officials, to the National Association of Housing Redevelopment Officials, and you will see a uniform line there. That is just for identity wear, because again, wherever I go, I want to make sure that people know that New Bern has a redevelopment commission. Also, to that end, they were supposed to be here today. They just got to the warehouse yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to get them. But this jacket that I am wearing, the chair and the co-chair have purchased this jacket for all of you, to encourage you to wear them whenever you're out in the community. So I'll be making those available to you very, very shortly.
But that means you gotta be places.
All right.
That's
right.
There you go. This is not a gift.
That's
This is a charge. All right. Unless there are questions about travel and training, I do believe that is the end of my report with one caveat, and I do this every year, and it's important that we do this every year. The very last sheet in your packet is a City of New Bern Statement of Disclosure. As redevelopment officials, we are not allowed to own or make money in the redevelopment boundary area outside of our primary residence. So every year I ask you to fill this form out in case you need to declare any property or business interest occurring in the redevelopment boundary area. So if you will please fill that form out, sign it, and give it to me, I will make sure that the city clerk gets it again. And with that, that is all I have for you for now. Whew.
Thank you, Zeb.
Absolutely.
And thank you for bringing the speakers that you brought today, because they talked about things that, like you said, it's a learning experience for you to be here for the past 18 months. It's a learning experience for us ongoing.
Yep.
And hearing things like, this is my opinion, that the CDBG funds could be used much more wisely within our redevelopment commission. We have not had any access to that because I was at the alderman's meeting when there were no funds assigned to us. No funds for CDBG. So I'm just saying, it's good to learn those things and learn that we need to ask for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I do want to just say, we only have 2 of the census tracts. I believe New Bern has 4 or 5 low-income census tracts. So we'll never have the entire CDBG fund at our disposal, but seeing as we do have
Close to
2 of them
40%.
in our boundary area, we should have some sort of access. So
That's for about 6 years now, Tim.
That's-
But that one Eubanks, that's all CDBG we've seen.
But you know, that's why it's so important.
3 years to get. Yeah.
That's why it's so important that the ad hoc members should be here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you know, because You know, everything they spoke on, like what Kip was saying, the city was putting money in. And those board members, if they were here to see this, because this is something the city council needs to see.
Yeah. It is.
Especially, yeah, I mean, you know, because, you know, we're trying to do something, but we're handicapped because you don't have the financial support that some of these other cities are getting from their city council.
Financial.
That is a segue into our next agenda item.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I want to take some time, and this is, you know, the Debrief and Redevelopment Commissioner River, we don't have an opportunity, I know we're still being recorded, but we don't have an opportunity at our meetings to say what we feel personally has gone well, has not gone well, or to throw an idea out there, even if it sounds crazy. You know, we threw out the idea of cutting grass, and then we realized, well, that might be beyond our realm of management, but there's something there we can take away. So I would like to take, I don't want everybody to take a ton of time, I don't want to diatribe, I just want to, you know, I want at least one win, one loss, and a good idea, an idea moving forward, and you get extra credit if you have two of those. I would call on you, and Sharon, you're so happy that Tabari came in late, because you're always on the end, it's always like, Sharon, and you know how many days it is? So I'm not going to call, I'm going to let, you know, raise your hand and start it out, but I do want to hear from everybody today, because that's why we're here. I mean, and I appreciate you guys showing up. The people sitting at this table show up. They've been showing up, some of us for 7 years, some of us for 2 years, because that's when you got, you know, a year and a half assigned to be part of it. So I appreciate you guys showing up. So who wants to go first?
So was it a win-loss?
A win, a loss, and an idea for the future. Y'all want me to go first?
Give them an idea of what I'm gonna say.
Because I will.
Okay.
I mean, I will say this. I really feel like, you know, Walt Bellamy closed this year, that came to fruition, but that's a win that took years. That is a win, and it's not just a win because we sold the houses. That's a win because we made a plan, we did the work, we said no when people wanted to change our plan. We came under some scrutiny from the neighborhood, from the city for doing that, and we stood firm, and then we went to our plan, and then at the end, we flexed because our plan changed. You know, we ended up selling to the housing authority. That wasn't our original plan, but we realized it was a good plan. So I think that's a win, the Walt Bellamy, we all work together. I think, I guess to your point, I feel like one of our losses, and it's just getting to be more and more evident, is our alderman involvement. And I know that we feel like our three, what are their actual titles? Ex officio members don't attend, and they should. But I feel like because of that, maybe we need to take the action to be more alderman involved. You know, we've shown up a few times when we know Zeb has some difficult information to present, but really, we're counting on Zeb to always stand up in front of the alderman. And so this is also my idea. Could we be more proactive in that, and somebody bringing something that we have going on actively, bringing that to the next alderman meeting, just as a little thing on the agenda, but then they see different faces, they see people on the commission, and they can't say what they always say, which is, wish you hadn't sprung this on us. You know, then they can't say that. And my other good idea, I think it's a good idea, is it's time for us to be proactive on commissioners on this commission. We have good commissioners on this commission. Some are going to roll off this year. Some people, you know, I have been on this commission for 7 years, and some of the commissioners that were appointed did not want to be on the commission, did not attend our meetings, did not contribute. We need people like the one sitting at this table who will contribute. So if you know somebody's getting ready to roll off, you need to be talking to Zeb and talking to your alderman about replacement of somebody you know that would serve our commission well. Because they're just going to appoint somebody.
Yep.
Yeah. You're right.
All right, so who else has a win and a loss? We can take it.
Well, Bern Street, the property you sold to the gentleman on Bern Street,
Yeah,
the house is up.
yes it is.
It's a big house. It's a very nice house. It add to the neighborhood.
So you're putting that in the wins,
That's a win, that's a real win.
all right?
Another win is, even when we thought we were losing, we never folded on any of the issues that we had to face for the public. We didn't fold it, so we stuck with what we had to do. The losses, I think the loss we got is something that we did not ourselves do, but it was due to wrong information going out before certain things were done. That was a loss. That was bad. And some of it was intentional. My only real idea I got is two ideas. Let's just make sure we stay on course with what we're doing. And the second thing is, I think we need to sit down with the city council for an hour-and-a-half meeting, because we have not yet sat with the board to explain some of the things that we learned today, and just kind of get an idea of what are they expecting out of us, and then we need to let them know what we expect out of them.
And so you're saying outside of attending an alderman's meeting, the city that may be calling an invitational
Work session.
work session? Okay.
Joint work session.
Yeah, hour and a half, that's all you need. Yeah.
Mine, I didn't need that.
Because like I said, we just want to know what they expect from us and what we expect from them.
Okay.
So-
I thought that was one of the problems, that, like you said, miscommunication is not being
Right.
forward, and nobody is sitting around the table talking.
Right.
So is that your loss?
That's my loss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going, what's the win?
You're already in there now.
Well, I thought the Eubanks property was a win, because when we first came on, it just sat there and nothing took place. But now you do finally have someone that is going to purchase that property. So I thought that was a good win. Ideas?
Two
Yeah.
people.
It was.
Yes.
You're up there. This
Might have been
whole
our
word.
fault.
That might have been, but it's going to get sold.
Well, but now, if I'm hearing it's a win, then y'all were instrumental in the win. How's that?
Right, because
Let's go with that.
we moved that needle.
That's right.
Ideas is, and I know this is beating a dead horse, but I'm a firm believer that we have to put something in the Jacksonville area. Some type of, he showed it on it, in Greenville, where they built those houses and the park underneath.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's what the community is buzzing about. You know, everybody's not gonna buy a house, but we don't have any, when I say we, the area don't have, suitable houses, apartments over there for people to stay. And I think once we put our money somewhere in an area, when we call or brand it, say if this is New Bern, we need to include that area as well. So that's my opinion.
Awesome.
Thank you, Sharon. All right. How we down?
I would say a win is the health center. Just how much time was put into that, and I mean, I know it's not built yet, so it's sort of just like you guys, it's sort of a future win, but I mean, I think that was, like, we had some opposition and some stuff going on, but we had to pivot, it didn't work where we were putting it, so I mean, I was impressed, the whole time, just how you had a hold on the entire process and how you listened to suggestions and questions. When I came in not knowing about the 5 years of work before, I'm like, what about this, what about that? So I thought that was a win. I think just kind of another win overall is just the way, like, we're all engaged and trying to, okay, what's next, like seeing the future. I think we could do things a little faster, to be honest, like come up with projects, have a slate of projects in the works sort of thing, brainstorm faster and hopefully move things faster because we have momentum right now. So I mean, I would say it's a win that we're working together better, but now we're however many years into this redevelopment plan. I think we all need to like brush up on that and revisit it, and maybe it'll give us ideas for other, like we did the code enforcement stuff back in the day. We did, that's ongoing. But there's other things in that plan that aren't necessarily just housing that, maybe that'll refresh our memory or something. A loss, I would say and this is nothing, personal, but I would say sometimes momentum gets stalled and sometimes there's like backhand conversation. So I don't think our communication has been as good as it can be. Because I would call Zeb and like, what in the actual heck is going on here? I've never even, So there's conversations, and I know we have to worry about, being a quorum, so we can't just all get together and have conversations off public record. I totally get that, but I think we should maybe come up with a way to like feel more engaged and make sure stuff's going through channels, so everybody doesn't have to be up to speed on Zeb's day every day. That I'm not asking for that, but maybe a once a month check-in before the meeting minutes come out, that sort of thing. So I think communication is a little bit of a win because we're better, but I don't think we're there yet.
Can I interrupt you?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not necessarily a new idea, but maybe an expansion of an older practice. One of the things that helped me out learning about the commission was actually in the housing, what do you guys call them? The work group. The housing work group always had a pre-meeting before the meeting to go through everything that was being presented. And I think if we were to put together a couple of those where I could come and I could talk to 3 of you at a time, a 3-on-3, and we could go over the agenda that way, it would help a lot.
Yeah.
And we're in 2025, so it doesn't have to be in person. It's nice when it's in person, especially at Kip's house. But it's nice when it's in person. We can do a Zoom meeting or a phone call or whatever. But in the past, one of the things that has helped just with that education is the opportunity to have offline conversations where with a group of people, so that you're building coalition at the same time as you're getting information. So that is on the strategic plan. So I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I'm going to steal that as my idea.
Oh God!
I'm going to commandeer Zeb's idea and say I thought
That's what you meant.
That's exactly what you meant.
No, I do. I mean, I do like that though, and definitely. I mean, I'm actually more flexible during the day because I work from home and nobody knows what meeting I'm in. I just block my calendar. So I'm fine with daytime meetings. Evenings are harder for me. Like going to the community stuff is harder, but daytime stuff is not that hard. So then ideas for the future. I mean, I think we'll talk about it in our closed session, but I mean, I liked a lot of what I heard today, and one thing that stands out to me, and maybe we've determined we don't want to spend the money on it, but is almost like the beautification, the signs, the sidewalks, better lighting, that sort of thing on the main corridors in our area. Because I mean, that makes a difference. Drive through Taberna or Trent Woods and drive through Duffyfield, and they don't feel anywhere the same. And that's, so the sidewalk, I don't know if we're going to go in and build sidewalks where they're not, but maybe, but lights, benches, that sort of thing. I like the transportation hub thing. So my mind is sort of shifting away from housing a little bit into what are those things will immediately change the feel of the area. We'll show developers that we invested money, in the area, that sort of thing. So, and New Bern already has like signs developed. Yeah. So I think we sort of use this packet of, like the Greenville signs, we sort of use what New Bern already does, but maybe we do have to spend the money to actually get them, put in, and maybe we do, look at more sidewalks or better sidewalks or pressure washing patching sidewalks or what, whatever it's gonna take to enhance the field. Putting trees, bushes, whatever, so.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but in both Greenville, Jacksonville, and Moorhead, a key part of their revitalization effort is art installation.
Yeah.
I put an asterisk by that in today's
Yeah.
presentation because
Yeah.
that's something we can do, and that is a grant opportunity.
Yeah, it just,
Infrastructure is a huge grant opportunity, I think, more so than housing.
Do we know any artists that live in the area, like that, do art?
Oh, yeah. You got
Oh, yeah.
They done painted up,
there's a certain somebody around the table who's on the Arts Council
She
board.
did. She did break eye contact when you said that.
I mean, I think
But I
that
think
would
that
help
would
the
be huge.
feel. I don't know if anybody does sculpture or whatever. I think if we're
They
talking
do.
outside,
They do,
like
yeah.
that would,
And that was part of, like downtown, trying to bring in different art so people can see it. That's when they started putting it throughout the town. So
Yeah.
when you come through that main corridor, you can see some different art pieces.
Yeah.
Murals in a lot of cities now are going up on side of walls and
Yeah.
stuff that you're gonna start seeing now.
And ECU's just gunning.
That
to
building,
put their
that
stuff.
building right down the street from Bloomfield on Main Street, is that big historic building. I can't remember what it's called. But it's-
Elks building.
Well, there is the Elks building, but I'm talking about on Main Street.
Yeah.
Terry just took down a couple years ago.
Oh,
took
you're
down-
talking about the Raw Circle Hall?
Well,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
oh,
it. But it has the whole, it's a blank canvas.
It could be a
That'd be gorgeous
Yeah.
place to,
When you fix it up, then paint it.
we could do a rehab and make it an incubator, like we could do that stuff. It could be really exciting.
But that would be nice because when you see something like that on the wall, and when you see buildings being built, that's what most people look for.
Mm-hmm.
If you say you're gonna do something, don't wait 2 to 5 years to get it done.
yeah.
Get that goal plan and go ahead on and implement it and get it ready. And that's when you see the community come together.
Absolutely.
What's
Stay
that
right.
building you're just
That's
talking
what
about?
speaks to people.
Yeah.
And Royal Hall, there it is.
Raw Hall.
I mean, if that's a rehab opportunity, what's it currently used for?
Nothing is fake.
Good.
Who owns it?
Pigeons, we can do Brownsville.
That's what we were talking
I
about,
don't know. It's
title
private.
problems.
It's private.
That's a title
That's a
problem.
title.
Yeah.
That's a title problem. Big title problem, too.
So,
But it had, a long time ago, it had business in there. Upstairs was a place where it was like a social for young people in the area.
Maybe
Barber
there's
shop
a-
downstairs.
Maybe there's a, we
Mr.
can do
Floyd's?
like a grant.
Yeah,
for
barber
those
shop.
or
Coleman,
something.
yeah.
Coleman Barber Shop is
Fix it
downstairs.
up, whatever.
Mr.
The
Floyd
candy
was
store was at the front.
At the front.
Mr. Floyd's candy store, yeah. My grandma
All right,
used to stay
thank
right
you, brave people. We got a few more. You want to go?
Yeah, sure.
2 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
behind. You gonna get killed.
everyone else gets a half an hour, you get 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't mean I said it because that's what we tell them at the funeral. You have 2 minutes.
Is this a funeral?
Oh, no, who's going?
As far as wins, everybody's talked about some of the things that we've done. I reflect back to some of our flexibility in working with Mr. Diggs.
Mhm.
You know, because of the title problem on that property, you know, he was willing to tackle getting that work cleared up for himself, and you know, we did some reverse course to make that happen and sell that property to him. Some of the losses that I see is the biggest one is letting the city take some of our property back, and so that they can sell it unconditionally with no strings attached, because they're not allowed to.
No restrictions.
No restrictions, and it was all because of some of the peak fry mess and everything. And so they are, in effect, doing everything they possibly can to be contrary to what we're trying to do, which is remove blight and encourage private investment in the property. Now, the big thing is they get the property back on the tax rolls.
Yeah.
So they're going against our vision of the community by allowing that to happen for their $5 a month or a year tax refund on a $4,000 lot.
Yeah.
So, and that's a real problem and for me. And then I think I've been also disappointed in our approach to getting grants. We hired a grant writer and we haven't heard anything about it. And like we all heard today, this world revolves around grants.
Tons of grants. Tons of grants.
And the money's obviously out there.
Yes, it is.
You just gotta go figure out how to go get it.
Yes, it is.
So I'll
Hopefully we
speak,
turn that loss into a win.
I think we can too. I'll speak to that just a little bit. So the grant writer that we hired, Margaret, generally works for nonprofits and autonomous entities or cities. We are neither autonomous or a municipality. We don't have our own EIN. And there are certain questions that never get asked until they need to be asked, like the EIN question or the grants workflow process. So in order to get a grant, to go for a grant, we're working right now with finance and administration to figure out what our workflow has to be so that we can actually figure out how to apply for a grant as the Redevelopment Commission, because we're set up sort of uniquely, not sort of, we are unique in the way that we are set up in the state, in that we are not independent, yet we are not included in the city in any way, any material way, except our financial tracking and those kinds of things. And so we're working really hard with Kim Rose, the Director of Finance, Kim Ostrom, there it is, and administration to figure out a workflow. As soon as we have that workflow, down pat, Margaret has put together a Excel spreadsheet of potential grants that we can apply for over the next couple of months. And so I'll be disseminating that to you all so that we can put projects together and narratives together for those grants. And as soon as we have those, she'll be able to apply en masse for those grants pretty easily. But it has been a slow process, and your frustration is well founded, because it seemed like an easy thing, because everywhere I went, people.
But it's not,
Everywhere I went,
Government's involved.
the only way this worked, and I don't know if you guys saw some of the numbers that other municipalities throw around, like $25 million, $45 million. Like, we're sitting with $800,000 and thinking, man, we doubled our budget. So like the necessity of grants is undeniable, and what we're able to do and how fast we're able to do what we're able to do depends upon our ability to get grants and to be funded that way. And so that's probably one of my biggest projects right now, is just figuring out the workflow and how to go about applying for grants. Because included in that workflow, just to give you just 2 seconds, I know 2 minutes, I got you. Included in that workflow is approval by this body, but also approval by the governing body. Also sign off from finance that they're going to audit and report on the grant. Then we have to meet the grant turnaround so that we can turn it in before it's due, right, and procure all the approvals. And sometimes you only have 90 days to get all that done. So streamlining the workflow and figuring out an actual process that's going to work for us, it makes no sense. We've started two, just so you all know, we've started 2 grants, and the grants closed before they got out of finance sign off. So, so that's where we are right now.
Okay. And then with visions or projects in the future, and I hate to even bring this up because it was a thorn in everybody's side at one time, but I don't think we're ever going to get what we want to happen in Duffyfield without better infrastructural access to that community. And a long time ago, if you remember, you guys have been around.
We're talking about the big boulevard
going down 3rd Avenue and extended it on down to Main Street to provide modern-looking access into Duffyfield to help spur on activity and so forth.
Well, it makes it part of the city. I mean, it makes it accessible to everyone.
Yeah, and that I know it's a terrible thought and so forth, but Henderson Park needs to get rethought in its total, in my opinion.
You're not gonna be able to, they're gonna put so much stuff on it now, they got a new playground out there, we ain't gonna be able to do that.
Well, I know, but that's part of the process that,
I thought the snafu we hit was you couldn't build a road across there because the way when that park was deeded or something, I thought that
well,
was.
there's some thoughts to that, but everything can get redone. If you put the effort into it.
Yeah, that's the same thing I said about the Dufferville area, because it used to be a thriving area.
Yeah.
And so that's why I don't see a problem in getting it done. But when you go in and say that it's a flood area, and you riding around everywhere else, and you're going to different towns like Jacksonville and Greenville and Wilmington, you see all these high rises coming up. So I'm saying, if you're going to say, we're New Bern, we're here together, and we're branding two rivers come together, or we're together, and you got this part of your town looking terrible, and everything else is thriving, what does that say about this part of the town? You got people still living in Trent Court, you ready to go, I don't like that plan, because they're talking about building low-income houses in there, and everybody, I may be paying $1,000, he may be paying $3,000. That's not gonna work. We know
Sure
that.
ain't, cause I'm gonna
We
be
know
mad if
that.
I'm paying $1,000, you paying $3,000.
Yeah.
So,
So,
Anyhow,
Well, what I'll say there is that opportunity may organically open to us to be a part of the conversation, simply because of the C&I application that the Housing Authority is leading. And so that's not a bad idea at all. And in fact, I think it's a great idea to reinvigorate that conversation and really start working with the community, because anything that
Be
you
an
do,
advocate for the community.
right,
and that-
anything that you do,
because it's
you're
an
going to
advocate.
need positive public feedback. And so getting graphics made so you show people what's possible and making that part of the narrative now, a year to 16 months before we even apply, that will help smooth the road and pave the way. Because really, what I found about New Bern in my 18 months working publicly is not that people hate doing things, it's people hate not knowing what's going to happen and being told after the fact. So if we get ahead of that and start engaging people in conversation and letting them lead that charge, maybe they don't want a road through Henderson Park. Maybe Second Avenue is the boulevard way to go. And I haven't looked at any of it, because I've been building houses for you, not roads. But
the amazing thing to me is you got Henderson Park down in the lowest piece of property in all of Dufferville. I mean, there's face facts about it, and yet they're continuing to put new stuff down in there. You know, you kind of make you wonder. But right behind Stanley White, on the opposite corner, there's a 10-acre field
10
back
acres,
there
yep.
that is
Big Hill
above
used to be,
floodplain,
where the Big Hill used to be, that was something?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
and you're behind the apartment.
Right, yeah, it's a Big Hill.
I mean, it's vacant. And it's
It's
adjacent to and connected to the new Stanley White. And why they don't put their resources, take it out of a flood, the worst piece of property in New Bern, and put it up there out of the floodplain where you can develop new fields, soccer fields, ball field, whatever. You can replace all the activity centers that are down there adjacent to the existing things, so you don't have to have separate bathrooms and all those other things. I have no idea why that, and
Who owns it and how much do they want for it?
I can get you that information.
I mean, they're about the vision for the future.
I like your vision, okay, and it is an inevitable thing as, not Kip, you or Kip, Zeb said. So to be proactive and keep that vision ahead of us is not a bad, I think that's a smart thing. All right.
All right.
You gotta rock it because you're the last one. Oh, no, sorry.
I'm here waiting.
Okay.
I'm gonna be nice.
Hey, look,
I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice and not steal your win, because I know what it's.
Look, I'm gonna give you 3 minutes, I'm gonna give him 1 minute.
You better flip that. See, it's gonna be quick.
So
I'm always happy about it.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Walt Bellamy's already been mentioned, but there's a key piece of Walt Bellamy that needs to be acknowledged. We're firing a lot of shots at, I don't want to say City Hall in general, but kind of City Hall and Board of Aldermen for involvement and everything. There was a huge win that led to Walt Bellamy coming to pass. And that was an alderman very specifically saying, I
Absolutely.
have a pot of money that is our single largest source of support from the day we were formed. So an alderman stepping up and making that acknowledgement and helping to support us is a huge win that we not
Huge win.
otherwise see.
Right.
He's the reason why that budget looks like
And
it.
it's gonna continue to
He's the
cycle.
reason for that.
I mean, as soon as that conversation first came up, I started talking about the velocity of that capital.
Yeah.
That's gonna be turned over. That's, I mean, we're talking about because of that, and other projects because of that. So that's a huge win.
Yeah.
Kip did steal my loss with regard to the property, and the city being able to basically disperse as they so choose without our feedback or thoughts. So dovetailing that into the idea, is there an appetite for us to put together a list of things that we would kindly request that the city to consider or to put in place whenever they sell property there?
Absolutely.
Nice.
That was going on with meeting with them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, they can say no, but if we make the ask, then we are at least saying,
Oh, yeah.
we acknowledge that you felt like you needed to do this to expedite processes,
But we
but
asked.
we're doing a lot of work to stop A from happening, so can you please help us stop that from happening in this neighborhood?
That's good,
Nice,
Steve.
Steve.
That's
That's a
good.
good way, and
Yeah.
that's an excellent idea. That goes in the new idea category.
They
Yeah.
can't put restrictions like we can, but they can still ask certain questions and do certain things. I don't think they couldn't put kids like, no, you can't park junk cars here. But they can ask questions and.
No, they can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I don't think they can do anything. 'Cause
The way the city, the way the city would do that is actually through the land use ordinance. And so what would be enforceable would be permitted use, and altering the permitted use, the permitted use ordinances in the land use ordinance. And so being part of that conversation and making sure that we're saying, hey, in the redevelopment district, what we'd like to see for single-family homes is X, Y, Z. No, don't permit someone to do this. Don't permit people to do that. Sort of the same referendum that we have on manufactured houses. That's written into the overlay. We can do the same thing with the land use ordinance as they're rewriting it.
So a creative
And that
way
is
to
a
accomplish
good-
the mission.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good example. I'm not sure everybody knows what kind of problem can happen, but the city can sell to somebody who is a regular citizen, is not paying attention to ordinance and overlay, and has a manufactured home they're gonna roll onto the site, and they haven't told the city that, and the city didn't ask, and then they realize they're in the redevelopment commission boundary, and they can't put a mobile home there. So that person has bought a property, has maybe even bought or made a down payment on a
Right.
home like that, and then they can't do anything about it. So it also, it just makes good sense. And so to that effect, can we, maybe not ask them to put restrictions on it, but can we request moratorium on certain properties if we have a plan in place and a certain time limit? Because that's what they did. They put a moratorium on sale in our area without our approval.
We can have that conversation.
I mean, that's something we could
Yeah, we can
pursue
certainly
maybe.
have the conversation.
If you remember-
The other thing, sorry. to cut
I
you
like
off.
that. Go ahead, I interrupted you.
That's okay. The other thing that I will say is, now that we have ironed out some of our processes, we have demonstrated as a commission that we can sell that we can sell parcels, and we can do that in not a 9-month period of time. We've had a couple of wins that way. If I were to name a win, I would say the $29,000 in real estate that we sold over the last year. That's a win, because prior to 2023, we didn't sell any of RDC-owned parcels. So we've demonstrated that we can now sell parcels. So going back to the Board of Aldermen and saying, hey, can you be flexible, go back to this action that you took and take a step back and give us another shot at this now that we've ironed out our processes, so that we regain that power of influence, so that we can impose restrictions that are conducive to the redevelopment plan. So I heard it twice, and so I just wanted to say, like, maybe the easiest approach is just asking them to let us have a second chance now that we've demonstrated that we can actually sell parcels.
And I think those kind of questions, those are the list of things that we would take with us to that meeting, the joint meeting.
Yeah.
Say, these are things, these are good things, and this is what we'd like for you to help us change.
If you remember, Mr. Flood said, that was the kudo that he gave us, that we said no at our last meeting to something that was gonna happen on the lot that was gonna be detrimental to the community.
Right, exactly.
He said, that's a kudos to you guys for doing that. If the city owned that lot and he went to them, and done, that's what we have on.
To your point, down the road from the parcel will be the exact same owner, developer, and
Oh, really?
site plan.
Yeah,
Very-
like 2 lots down, there's a city owned lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna get it.
That's crazy.
So,
Yeah.
to your point, and I do think that that's a loss, and I think that it's worth
It is one of our biggest losses.
engaging the governing board and just saying, hey, here's what we're noticing, bringing up
Give them the examples of what we see.
Yeah, the examples of H Street. They sold that lot and the guy started putting in Lowe's storage units. They were going to convert into tiny houses with no foundations.
Yeah.
Luckily, we worked with enforcement and we got those but those kinds of things have certainly taken an uptick. So, sorry, Steve, I'm taking all of your time.
One more idea, and this is piggybacking off of a thought and a problem and a mention you made from the grant perspective. It is not out of the ordinary at all. It would not be considered outlandish in a governmental setting for this group to create its own related but distinct nonprofit.
Mm-hmm. That would make things
I've got a whole handful.
Very much easier.
Yeah, I've got a whole handful of them that I work with on a normal basis, and they can even create a new org code in Banner and track it in the books and exclude it from the city's financials. It comes with its own reporting and responsibilities for that org, but you can stagger the directors the same way that this boards are staggered, and basically have a nonprofit extension of our group that is related but not exactly the same as the city. That's gonna open it up where you can get in on the governmental grants and on the nonprofit grants.
That kind of frees up your hand, but I had to go through the city council. See, I give you another minute.
Tomorrow, down to nothing.
That's been done. That's been done to great success.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got a half a dozen of them on my books in Greenville, so.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Roll it, George.
Okay, now some more.
I want to continue what Steve just said as far as about his grant stuff. Because I was the main cheerleader when we first did this. What was it, October? November? What was the grant thing?
I think
hired.
we went into
August?
contract in August.
Even
Yeah.
worse.
That one?
That's even worse. Okay, so, and I was the main one giving nonverbals. I ain't gonna call them out, but giving nonverbals like, let's do this, we can get 18 million back. And I should have asked more questions. Because that was 5 months ago. Okay, 5 months ago. And what we just discussed here, we just fixed the problem. 30 minutes where we can start moving forward. So again, we got to start seeing something with that from that grant. Right, period. All right, 2 wins. I'm going to say the Bloomfield project. We stood in front of the community.
You will.
Thank you, because I thought you were going to say it. The Bloomfield project stood in front of the committee. I mean the community, and we asked for their blessings for this particular thing, and then we had to pivot per the rules and land and this and that. And then we're actually going to break ground here in a minute. And I think that the community they're seeing the green jackets over there now.
Yeah.
They're already buzzing about it.
Right.
And so now I can go back and visit my mom. I told them something, it didn't happen. They were looking for me. So I'm good. So I thank all the help y'all gave on that. Thank you so much.
You don't have to go to the toll road with the boys at night.
Bruh, I wasn't even going over there. They were looking for me, so that is a big win. And the other win, and I think I said this the last work session, is the expertise of this team. We all have differentiating expertise that shows its head when it's needed. It's the craziest thing in the world. You know what you did when I was in he makes me sick. It ain't what I kept looking like, what is it like? I ain't messing with you, Grip. But like when I was out of town and I was watching the Board of Aldermen meeting, when the Health and Wellness Center, all that mess was going on, and several members of here stepped up there to that mic and did what they did, and we prevailed.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But we just came, Kip's Construction, Steve's Financial, Sharon's Historical Perspective, and Sarah was just kicking butt today, wasn't she? I mean, she was in rare form today. I mean, my goodness, and then the architecture and the leadership, I mean, I could just go on and on, but we have a set of expertise here. This group was put together greatly because we all complement each other.
I agree. You know, that was one of my wins I wrote down, actually, was that we fought for Sarah because she was a temporary person appointed and it was getting ready to be over with.
No, wait.
And we went to, but you know, that's what I'm saying. We fought for her, went to the alderman and
she was coming back.
Yeah,
Trust me.
so I feel like that was a win too. That
Right.
was on my.
To keep it, and then the CB, y'all didn't hear this part, but the CBDG thing, when she first got it with Zeb on that, and I was on Zeb's phone and I heard her going in. So just, okay, all I gotta say is she's something. When she's something else. When she needs to prove a point, yeah, the other Sarah comes out. So, all right, I heard it with my own ears, so I'm telling you. But the losses I think is the lost time with CBDG. I mean, how long it took them to finally get their act together. And then I've been on this thing for 7 years. It's the first time I've seen this paper. We've been asking for it since 2018. It's the first time I've seen this paper, exactly what we're allowed and what we're not to do. And Kip, would you look at this? Miraculously, temporarily rent or lease properties. Eubanks was totally derailed by that question right there.
Yeah.
And we had to start all over. And now we're here, we're seeing this now, we're writing that we could have temporarily did it, didn't send it over.
Well, it's for temporary housing. It's a very specific, very narrow.
Right. But I asked that, but it hasn't been litigated.
Yeah.
See, we got a lawyer right there. It hasn't been litigated, so nobody told us no. We couldn't do it. You know, it wasn't a no. We were told we could not. We could not rent or lease. That's what we were told. And that was wrong. It was right here, right here. Get me started. All right, my idea. Home, but I hate that. Don't tell me something and change it. That's the worst. You move the goalposts. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
If I got 10 yards to go, don't get to the one that didn't say, oh, you got 6 months. No. You should have told me to write the first time.
You play defense.
I did.
You the only kid where yours.
I did. But my idea is the home buyer education, what we heard today, is we really need that. They did it once per month. I didn't get to ask them who taught it. I don't know if they contract out for it, but that's an idea.
Can I say something on that, just because it's a good idea?
Yeah.
So the certifying body for that, for an accredited course, which is the only thing that works for the home buyer, is a program done by NCFHA. It takes a number of years to get that certification, but Tracy offers those classes via Zoom. And so it is open to home buyers in our market, and I've already begun to refer people to that. But if pursuing that certification for this board, so we can offer a program like that, we're finding a partner in New Bern that will offer that, and maybe sponsoring that certification, because it does carry a cost with it as well. That would be a really great idea to have that in our own market.
I wonder if the real estate, probably not, because it wouldn't get, I was thinking in our whatever, the National Association
of
of
Realtors.
here, but it wouldn't benefit them, so I don't know.
And my last idea was, and I'm going to keep saying this, I'm glad that camera's on. I've talked to the mayor already, I've talked to several aldermen, and it's just a problem that, it's a silent problem nobody's hearing, but people who's living it every day. It's the grocery store again. When they close Piggly Wiggly out there by Tatum Drive. Yeah, right that area. Now the residents that we represent, okay, now they're finding a ride up to 7th Street and way out to the food line by the, that's taxi fare. They're taking carts and doing everything else. And y'all, I saw yesterday some of them are walking the hump. They're taking the whole hump in front of the hospital all the way down to that food line, and they're pushing baskets. Eventually the food line's people even realize their baskets start to miss them because they're pushing them back uptown, but they gotta do what they gotta do. But the grocery store is key, y'all, now, because now they don't have anywhere to go but that, what is it, Dollar General? What is that? Family Dollar. And if you check Family Dollar, I bet you walk in there and ask them, they got to be making money hand over foot because that's the only place they got to go
Right.
to be able to feed their families.
And there's no fresh food in there.
None. It's all processed. So, I mean, I'm going to say it again, that's a vision. Lord, we got to get that grocery store over on this end. I mean, now with that pig, there's an added emphasis with that Piggly Wiggly closing. That's it.
Okay.
All right.
Super good ideas.
Super good ideas. Thank you guys for sharing. And I know we have a closed session just to talk about acquiring property, correct?
Correct.
What's
So,
that?
Madam Chair, you're going to need a commissioner to say these words. I move to go into closed session pursuant to the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A5 to discuss the acquisition of real property.
So moved.
I move to go into closed session to discuss the acquisition of property pursuant to NC General Statute 143.318.11A5.
That's right.
Second.
Oh, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of going to closed session?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we're going.
Madam Chair, we are back in open session after a closed session.
All right, being back in open session and no more agenda items, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? Okay.
See ya.